from getting back into this wild card chase. As that one launched high in the air to left. That one's not coming back. Ivan Herrera, an extra base hit in his last 2 games.
That's what it sounded like over the weekend. We're not even going to discuss the game from last night. Let's pretend it didn't happen here for just a moment. Audio courtesy of Cardinals TV. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. The big news today, Alex, is not what happened last night.
Are you kidding me?
That was awful. No good. Very bad. Nathan Church had a bad moment. Michael McGreevy had a bad start. It was just a horrible baseball game, and I would like to forget it as quickly as I turned off the TV last night.
I'll just say it was good for the sense that I had it off by the 4th inning. So, on with your night by, what was that?
Yeah, I got to go for a walk.
8:30?
When it was a little cooler.
It's great, man.
The problem is the first inning lasted about 40 minutes, and then they got done with the second inning by 8:30.
I think he was, what is he at, 67 pitches by the second inning?
It was a truly horrific baseball game to watch. But today, there's a lot of news that's circulating across the internet, Alex.
And I would imagine good news?
I guess it depends your perspective.
Okay.
I think for some Cardinals fans, yeah. Because I always got the sense this year that there was at least a segment of the fan base that's always wanted this. That they wanted the team to collapse, to go down the path that the team always, in their eyes at least, was supposed to go down this season, which is to become a seller at the Major League Baseball trade deadline. Well, we're here. They're a seller. I know Jim Bowden says opposite. I don't care. They're a seller. Alex, there's been a lot of buzz this morning that the Cardinals are listening on their catchers. That's not a surprise to anybody. We've been talking about that for a while. They've got a ton of catching depth. It's not just their catchers overall, though. It's Ivan Herrera's name that is being thrown around, including by Mark Feinsand, who I think is one of the best and most plugged-in reporters in the business, where he said, if any club is in position to deal a catcher, it would be the Cardinals, who have 3 on their Major League roster, including Pedro Pages and Ivan Herrera. Pages is more of a defensive-minded catcher, while Herrera profiles as more of a bat-first catcher. They also have the #1 ranked catcher in their pipeline in Ray Rodriguez, and they have another top 15 prospect in Leo Bernal. Said it's likely that one or both could make the push to the opening day roster next year, giving the Cardinals options if teams come calling this week. In other words, he believes they're at least listening on Ivan Herrera. I like listening to Wednesdays with Walton on my drive-in on Wednesdays.
Would make
Today
sense.
was one of those days. And here's Kyle Reese on said podcast reacting to the Herrera news.
To trade Ivan Herrera at a deadline when he has 3 years of control at the cheapest amounts seems like the kind of thing that loser organizations do. Not just teams losing, but loser organizations do. Trying maybe a little too hard to be the smartest person in the room. Again, he has trouble throwing out base runners. That is a fact. It is the only hole in his defensive game. It really is. He's gotten better as a play caller as the season has progressed. There are even signs that he was doing stuff with Matthew Liberatore that no one else has. The problem is Matthew Liberatore just can't. He's terrible. He just throws pitches right over the heart of the plate, and things don't work out because of it.
Libby didn't need the side swipe.
A little aggressive on both fronts, but I can understand his frustration with the idea.
Do you agree with it?
In a sense, yes. I don't know if I'd go as aggressive as it's what loser organizations do, where they're trying to be the smartest.
Loser behavior.
Where they're trying to be the smartest person in the room. It seems like a BK behavior. But, I mean, trading him would be dumb to make a lateral trade. Herrera is probably one of the best assets you'd have available to trade.
I agree with that.
And the real question is, what could you get in return? Now, when we were talking with Bowden yesterday, and I don't think it's realistic, but if you got a Brian Wu back or a Bryce Miller back, I mean, as much as we like Ivan Herrera, that's a guy that you're putting at the front of your rotation for years to come. But trading Ivan Herrera seems like you're banking on guys that you don't know if they're going to be good at the major league level versus a guy you know is good at the major league level. Now, the questions of him being an actual catcher for you are realistic. Yeah, it's the only flaw in his game, but when teams start abusing that flaw to where it's like, hey, look, you can't throw anybody out, so we're going to start stealing on you. well, you become pointless at that spot. Like, you're going to have to move off of the catcher position. And then where does he move? And can you find the spot for him? Do you value it if he becomes a DH? Is he a first baseman? Where do you go with it? So I do think that's something the Cardinals would consider, especially with Ray Rodriguez and Leo Bernal in their system. So that's kind of why it's like, look, I don't know if I'd go to the aggressive point if it's what a loser organization does. I think...
What a quote.
I think you're a losing organization now. Like, you're in a rebuild.
Yeah, we're already losers.
Yeah, you can't call me a loser. I am a loser.
And that technically is now true for the first time this season. They are one game below 500.
You're rebuilding. And in a rebuild, I don't think you can, as a group, sit here and say, well, this guy's untouchable and this guy's untouchable. If he was untouchable, you'd be winning.
I don't agree with that. I think there are really good players that are on bad teams. The Royals have a really good player in Bobby Witt Jr. They're not doing a whole lot of winning because baseball is not about one player.
But they were winning last year with it.
Sure, but like the Angels had Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. That doesn't mean that those guys were bad. It means the rest of the roster was crap.
Yeah, it means the organization's bad, and they need to figure out how to do that better. But I don't know if I can say that. You don't have Mike Trout or Shohei Ohtani on your team. Like, this is not where Ivan Herrera is those guys.
No, I agree, but like, I disagree with the notion that if he was good, they would be winning. Jordan Walker for most of the season was an MVP.
If you had more untouchable pieces,
you would not be having these conversations. Yeah, I'm not saying Ivan Herrera is the reason that they're losing and how otherwise he'd be untouchable. I'm saying if your team was in a better position, you could sit here and say, well, this guy's untouchable and this guy's untouchable and this guy. Yeah, no, this is look, you're bad. You should be listening on everything to try and better your team moving forward.
Including Walker?
No, Walker and Weatherholt are your two untouchables, and I think it makes sense. One got a contract extension and is probably going to win the Rookie of the Year, although that's dipped a little bit. And the other one, although he is struggling right now, has shown the MVP capabilities.
Hasn't Ivan Herrera proven more as a hitter than Jordan Walker has at the major league level?
Sure, but it's in what, half of a season, 3/4 of a season?
No, he's done it for multiple years.
He's never played a full 162 for you.
Correct. I would argue that Jordan Walker hasn't either.
Sure. But Jordan Walker is something that you've kind of put your bag behind and said, this is the guy we're supposed to go with.
Why isn't Ivan Herrera?
Because I don't think Herrera has shown that home run capability that Walker just has.
Okay, I mean, that's fair.
I don't think Ivan Herrera has a primary position.
Last year, I think he kind of did. Last year, Ivan Herrera in, 100 games had 19 home runs? And that would be a projection of 30.
But he hasn't been here at all this season.
Correct. But Jordan Walker prior to this season hadn't.
But, so it was consistent most of this season up until
Ivan Herrera, I would say the same thing last year for 90-plus games, was consistent, and then he had the injury, which ended his season. He was not allowed to continue because of the injury, and so far in the second half, post like 90 games, Walker has not hit a home run.
Mm-hmm. So that was the home run derby's fault.
Sure, you can argue that it's that. Maybe it's him getting exposed. I don't know what it is, but I'm playing devil's advocate here. Because I think sometimes we underestimate what Ivan Herrera is as a hitter. If he started out the season with what he's doing right now, and then right now was hitting the way that he had been for, 3 months in the regular season, I don't think we would be having the same conversation right now. We would be saying, why would you be trading one of the better, more productive hitters on your roster? That's not a guy that you trade. That's a guy that you build around for the remainder of his career. He's got 3.5 years of club control. And he's a right-handed hitter who can play the catcher position. Think about what we've been talking about across Major League Baseball at this year's deadline. The two things position player-wise that people are most seeking. 1, right-handed hitters. 2, catchers. This guy can conceivably be both of those things.
Do you think he's going to be a catcher for this team in 3 years?
I truly do not know.
And see, that's the part that I don't have confidence in.
I think that's actually an argument against yours is the I don't know. I think you have to know.
I mean, we were talking about
Why do I have
Rutschman.
to know that today?
Well, because
if they're in a spot what you just said where they're in a rebuild, shouldn't I want to find out during this stretch
but you're
if he
also
can?
In asset accumulation mode. Like the reason that I would disagree with Kyle's premise, the audio clip that we played, is because would we call the Rays a loser organization? Now we can call them cheap, but would we call them a loser organization? I would say no. And the reason I bring them up is this is the kind of thing the Rays would do. And the reason that I say that, they would read the market and go, man, everybody is so desperate for a right-handed bat and a catcher. And maybe teams don't view him as a catcher. They need a right-handed bat, and this guy's right-handed. I think a smart organization would read that as in the state the Cardinals are in asset accumulation mode and say, we should float this piece out there. And I think they are. Now, I don't know that they're going to pull off a trade because they don't have to pull off a trade, right? This is the best seat that they can be in. They can listen. You know what? If we get to 5 o'clock next Monday, they don't have to pull the trade. But I think it is smart for them to be listening on this because of how desperate the market is.
I think they should listen.
That's what I'm saying, too. I'm not saying they should trade him.
Like, if Emerson Hancock is the move, that does nothing for me.
I'm not making that move.
If you're getting Logan Gilbert, if you're getting Brian Wu, and I'm just using the Mariners as the example here, if you're getting George Kirby, sure, I'm willing to have the conversation there. I don't think those guys are getting dealt at the trade deadline. I think it's going to be really hard to find a match that actually gives you the return that they would be seeking for an Ivan Herrera in season. It feels more of an off-season move to me. Like, doing that right now just seems kind of silly. Because I don't know who the team is that's going to be able to give you the assets that you are seeking. Yes, T-Bone, they are in asset accumulation mode. I don't think they should be in asset accumulation mode necessarily, though, for Ivan Herrera, who is a 26-year-old player with 3.5 years of club control remaining. That is a guy who, theoretically at least, should be a part of your future. Like, in 3 years, they damn well better be contending again. If this thing goes according to plan, and they're not good in 3 years when Ivan Herrera is still under club control, something has gone horribly awry. And this thing has really failed in a spectacular form. That would mean it's 5 consecutive years of sucking. You can't do that, man, and expect to continue to go on that same path. So this is not me telling you they cannot trade Ivan Herrera. I'm just saying if they're going to do something like that, it's got to be for a hell of a lot more than a lot of the, I believe, ideas that have been thrown out there. And that, to me, does not feel like a trade deadline kind of a move. That feels like an offseason move. And if it's an offseason move, we think it's going to get done within a month of the CBA getting potentially removed and the offseason beginning. I don't know, man. That seems highly aggressive in my eyes.
I agree with you, but I wonder how aggressive teams are going to get because of that little window to work in the offseason. But my whole point on this is I'm not going to sit here and say, no, that's dumb. You're not trading Ivan Herrera. I don't want to trade him, but I'm going to listen, just like I'm going to listen on Alec Burleson, just like I'm going to listen on everybody within my organization other than Walker and Weatherholt, because I feel like that's where I'm at. And for how lucrative this market might be for teams that are looking for catchers, I'd be crazy not to at least have my phone on to say, yeah, we'll listen on Herrera, but you better blow me out of the water.
That I agree with. That's as far as I'm willing to go. Is like, if you want to listen, sure. I don't think he gets traded at the deadline. I think ultimately what happens here is you trade one of, maybe two of, and probably it's just Crooks, and I would bet Pajas. I would say those are the two guys that they actually listen on at this year's trade deadline. Do you guys disagree with that assessment?
I think Crooks or Bernal is the one for me.
I would have my percentage probably a lot higher than yours. Like, I think it's 40% chance he gets dealt.
I mean, that's real.
Because I think there's going to be a market for him. Now, the reason I'm not up to 50% because I agree with what you're saying. It would make more sense as a off-season move, but with the fact that there's probably not going to be an off-season, I think you're going to see teams get a little bit more aggressive. I mean, I think an Early and Mead trade would have been more of an off-season move, and yet those teams challenged each other and said, all right, let's figure it out, and poor Boston's guys on the IL.
The difference, though, is, I mean, Early was on the IL.
No, he got put on the IL after the trade.
Early was on the IL beforehand.
I meant the guy that went to Boston.
And that's why I'm saying for the Boston side of things, Early they weren't sure he was going to pitch the rest of the year. So if he's not going to help them the rest of the season, you can make that kind of a deal now because the other team, the Washington Nationals, don't care about that. They're making that move for 2027, and the Red Sox needed the help today. It's basically the equivalent of trading somebody that's in the farm system for them.
Yeah, I just think that the reason I'm much higher on this percentage is because I think Heim came from Tampa Bay, and this is the kind of thing Tampa Bay would have done, which is read the market, see that there are teams that are desperate for right-handed hitting catchers or just even right-handed bats in general now that Spencer Steer has gone on the IL for the Cincinnati Reds. Though he wasn't a catcher, he was one of the most sought-after right-handed bats. We just saw Mead get traded from Washington. He was one of those bats that was sought after. And you're also talking about Shea Langolier's season's over, and Colorado doesn't sound like they're trading Goodman. So I think that it is smart to be listening. And that means they're probably going to get a bidding war, and that's when I wonder if something could happen. That's why I'm at 40% chance he gets dealt.
I'm going to give you a totally random list of players. Okay, this is just a random list of players' names. Okay, Will Smith, Randy Arozarena, Shea Langoliers, Jeremy Pena, Julio Rodriguez, Manny Machado, William Contreras, Jackson Churio, Alex Bregman.
It already feels cherry-picked.
Seems like a BK stat.
Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, Willie Adames. You mentioned Hunter Goodman. I'll go ahead and throw him into the mix here. Bo Bichette, Alejandro Kirk, Otto Lopez, Alec Bohm, Nico Horner. All of these guys, they're right-handed hitters that have been less productive offensively since 2024 than Ivan Herrera. Ivan Herrera right now, according to Fangraphs, and this is just going by the numbers, has been the 13th most valuable, most productive right-handed hitter in all of Major League Baseball since the start of the 2024 season, among all hitters that have at least 1,000 plate appearances over that stretch. The guys that have been more productive than him in this stretch are Fernando Tatis Jr., Mike Trout, Seiya Suzuki, Yandy Diaz, Pete Alonso, Brent Rooker, Junior Caminero, Byron Buxton, Wilson Contreras, Vlad Guerrero, Bobby Witt, Aaron Judge. End of list. The idea of trading that kind of a bat, that's the kind of bat that the Cardinals should be looking for. Like, if he was available on the market right now, I would be circling him and saying the Cardinals should move heaven and earth to go get that guy. And now we're talking about potentially moving him at 26 years old with 3.5 years of club control remaining as a guy who can at least conceivably play the catcher position. It's just not something that I think that you should necessarily be doing unless you get a huge return at the trade deadline. And I don't think that huge return is going to be out there for you at this year's deadline.
Let me ask you this real quick, because yesterday we brought up Adley Rutschman, and you said you'd be all over that. Are you going after Adley Rutschman to play the catcher position?
Yeah.
So then where's Herrera going?
If you could buy low on Adley Rutschman, and I would still have Herrera as my second catcher there. And I would have Herrera as a designated hitter the other 3 out of the 5. So I would have Rutschman playing 3 out of 5, and I would have behind the plate, and then the other 2 games would be a designated hitter for me. And then I would have Herrera as the inverse of that. 2 games behind the plate, 3 games as your designated hitter. And that would be my catcher position for the next 5 years. And then I would just plan on trading Bernal, Crooks, and Pajes.
And then what are you turning Ray Rodriguez into?
First baseman,
Third
probably.
base.
I don't know if he's a catcher either.
base.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But and if that becomes an issue, then I think we're making a lot of assumptions with Rainiel Rodriguez. I don't know what position he's ultimately going to land on. I don't know if he's going to be good enough defensively, because I've been sold some stuff on catchers at this point where all of them were sold as good defensively. I'm not sure I see it with Jimmy Crooks.
So then why not dangle Ray Rodriguez as a trade asset?
Because I don't need to yet. I've got time. I don't feel rushed to do any of this stuff that we're talking about. I feel like I've got a lot of time with Ivan Herrera, with Rainiel Rodriguez. And so if I have a guy coming through my system right now that I think can eventually be good, we're watching it right now with J.J. Weatherall. I think he's had a good year. You guys agree with that?
Yeah.
I think J.J. Weatherall was one of the top prospects in all of minor league baseball. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
He's been a little above league average at this point offensively. And we feel really good about where he's at. So if Rainiel Rodriguez comes up, let's say in 2 years, and this is the kind of production that you get from him, it will be less than what you're already getting from Ivan Herrera behind the plate. So I don't feel like I need to make that move. Ivan Herrera and J.J. Weatherholt have basically the same OPS this season. It feels disappointing for Herrera. It feels amazing for Weatherholt. That's all about expectations. So it's why I wouldn't move him. Unless, again, you're getting a huge, huge, huge return. Yeah. And I don't think that's out there for you.
And I stand by. I think saying they're a loser organization to do it is probably a little aggressive.
I like it, though.
Maybe a little. I mean, we all like aggressiveness.
We are losers.
That's true. That seems like a slogan for 2027.
From
Since
636. BK, how can he be more productive than those guys when he hasn't played as many games as those guys? Talking about by OPS.
See? Cherry picked.
And I said at least 1,000 plate appearances
Also
in
doesn't
this
hit the ball
stretch.
hard anymore.
Yeah,
Ivan Herrera has 1,100 plate appearances. Just to use a totally random player, Mike Trout has 1,000. Carlos Correa has 1,000.
Cherry pick.
Will Smith, who I think we all agree is a really good player, right?
No, cherry pick.
Catcher for a World Series contending team, and we all like him. He has almost the exact same slash line over the last 3 years as Ivan Herrera, and almost the exact same number of games, and almost the exact same number of plate appearances. I'd like that guy to be the catcher for the Cardinals, and he basically is.
Well,
But he still hasn't thrown a guy out at second base.
It's a question.
I don't think he's a catcher.
Coming up in 15 minutes, the market has officially been reset in the NHL. What's it mean big picture? We'll talk about that coming up here in just a little bit. If you guys want to get involved in the show, you can do so at 314-399-9646. That's the Your Comfort Service text line. Or you can check us out on YouTube, as always, at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Coming up next, what feels better, the way that the Cardinal season has come to an end or the way that the Blue season came to an end? We'll discuss it next here on 101 ESPN. Real quick, Alex.
Yeah.
Jeff Jones just tweeted, let's aggregate responsibly. Jeff Passan said on his podcast this week that the Orioles have had conversations with other teams about Rutschman, Holiday, and Cowser. Far be it for me to guess, but that sounds like teams asking about Holiday more than them shopping him. That said, let's be irresponsible for a second. I believe there are people in the Cardinals organization who would move heaven and earth to get their hands on Jackson Holiday, who in theory could at least play some third. So that's fun. I agree. I think that would make a lot of sense.
Why not go get both? Go get Rutschman and Holiday.
I don't think that the Orioles are a team that would be in need of Ivan Herrera, but that would be one of those moves where maybe you could include an Ivan Herrera. Where if you truly still believe in Jackson Holiday's upside as a future third baseman for you, that's the kind of move where I could see it.
Totally.
I don't think it makes sense for the Orioles to do that because they have a bunch of other young catchers, and they also have Rutschman, who we talked about earlier. But, again, in theory, I get that.
Again, you said Emerson Hancock. I'm not trading Herrera for that. I'm not trading Herrera for Soriano or Detmers from the Angels. I'm talking best of the best, one of the top pitchers from the Mariners, Jackson Holiday, something like that. If I'm getting a legit bat that can play third base for me or a legit arm that could be front of the rotation starter for me, that's where Herrera's name comes up in these conversations. And that's something that I think as an organization, you have to listen on.
I think we're actually closer on this, Alex, than we are with T-Bone. That's the sense that I get from our conversation.
T-Bone,
I think we're closer. I'm probably more to one side, but you're a little closer to the middle.
Yeah.
And then T-Bone's like on the other side.
Yeah, probably.
That's the sense I get. T-Bone, you can tell me if you disagree with that.
I think that's fair. Now I agree on holding a high bar for him, but I am much more open to the idea of moving him because I don't see him necessarily as a catcher long term. Now, to be fair, and I think Kyle did make a good point of this on social media yesterday, if the Cardinals don't view him as a catcher, you're not going to surprise any of the other 29 teams across baseball. They all know the same thing because everybody's basically got the same models at this point across the sport with just slight differences. But I am much more open to listening to him on the open market than I think you guys are.
All right. Now, let's get into the bigger picture conversation. I heard the Fast Lane kind of mention something like this yesterday, Alex, and I wanted to get your thoughts as the Blues guy. Which order of operations feels better? Is it the way that the Blues season went, where they start off, they're putrid, they're just so bad.
God.
But then they kind of figure it out, they get it going, and by the end of the season, they're an interesting team, and they just miss out by a little bit. So they finish on a high note, but they got off to such a terrible start that it didn't matter. Or the way that the Cardinals season has gone, where, boy, did they get off to a great start. They looked awesome. We were all excited about it. They kept us locked in for 3 months, 3 full months this year. And then they go through this terrible stretch where we can all see what's coming and we kind of know, all right, well, it's going to end poorly, but, you know, they had the good start. So at least we had that this year. Which one feels better in your eyes in terms of the order of operations? The end result is pretty similar, but what felt better in the moment?
I don't think this is even a question. What felt better in the moment was the Cardinals. The Blues just pissed me off. Now, as we got to the end of it and reality set in, you know, you start to look at it, you know, and you say like, all right, well, you're seeing signs of life from some of these guys. But in the moment, that pissed me off so much because you saw how putrid they were in every aspect of the season. And then once Doug started floating names out there and then the potential, and then they started playing better. And it was, oh man, now look at them go. That's frustrating. Whereas the Cardinals, I went into it with no expectations. I went into it open-minded, wanting to see what it looked like, and got pleasantly surprised all the way up until this All-Star break. But in the back of my mind, I always thought that the Cardinals weren't good enough to make the playoffs because the organization just was not there yet. So when it hit, it was like, oh, okay, that was still a lot of fun, but this is where they're at, and I'm okay with that. Still signs of life for the future, but now you can start to do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would side on it is much better to be more in the Cardinal situation where it is get off to the hot start and then realize it's almost like a race, right? You start off sprinting at the very beginning and then you run out of gas by the end of it. I think that's much better than seeing what the Blues did, which is get off to such a slow start, then play well towards the end of the season and barely miss out, because then you end up in a spot where you have to question what was real and what wasn't, right? Well, the spot the Cardinals are in, it's kind of how we felt going into the season, is they weren't going to hit for a ton of power and they weren't going to have the pitching to do it. And they surprised us in the first month, and eventually they fell right back down to expectations. So there's not really a ton of questions around them, right? For the Blues, it was, no, wait a minute, which version are we, right? Are we the team from the second half of the year that looked really good? Or were we more of that team from the first half that didn't show up when the season really mattered at the beginning and put ourselves so far behind the 8 ball that we couldn't climb back into the race? So I would much rather be in the Cardinals' position.
Just as a spectator, like I'm going to put myself in the fan shoes right now. This is so much better. Yeah. They had you locked in for 3 months. There was 3 months of meaningful baseball. The Blues played like 5 meaningful games this year. And they were all at the end of the season.
And they failed those. Yeah. The meaningful games, they lost those games.
And like the Cardinals, there were stretches of time. We always wondered, like, is this real? Is it not? Is the other shoe going to drop? But they had you on the edge of your seat wondering, like, is this real? There was a stretch of time where they won 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers, right? And they played pretty well against the Mariners. I know they lost all 3 games, but we left that series saying to ourselves, like, they were right there with the team that we all thought at the time could contend for the ALCS. And so you left these games, and you're like, I mean, maybe there's something more real here than what we're giving them credit for. And ultimately, the answer is no. They're not. They're below 500. They're going to sell. It is what it is. It's what everybody kind of expected coming into the year. But you got some positive responses. There's something worth leaning on with Burley, Walker, Weatherholt, Herrera, I believe. You got something meaningful in your rotation with Michael McGreevy. Like, you've seen real signs of life with this organization. And those were before the season had ultimately come to its conclusion, which basically happened for the Blues 30 games in. It basically ended as quickly as it started for the Blues. And so those games that they played, yeah, they eventually got back into it, but none of it felt real. None of it felt overly meaningful. And it wasn't like you were locked in for 4 months of the season. So as a spectator, I vastly prefer this, where you collapse down the stretch. It sucks. I don't enjoy watching it now. But at least we got 3 good months of watching legitimately intriguing baseball.
Yeah, I mean, that's just where I'm at. I enjoyed the start of the season when I thought I wasn't going to care about the Cardinals at all this year. I didn't think I was going to watch this team. Whereas on the Blues season, I'm paid to do the game, so I'm a part of it all season long. But as a fan, I had so much excitement and anticipation for the season and for how the first 2 months went. Boy, that was beyond frustrating to try and watch and just keep seeing the same thing happen. And then when they got better, it was, you got to be kidding me. It's like, if you would have done this in the first 2 months of the season, we'd be talking playoffs right now. Whereas with the Cardinals, I can't say the same thing of, well, you got to be kidding me, guys. You can't play like you did in the first 2 months of the season. No, because I don't think they were built up for that yet. I think they're still figuring that out. Whereas the Blues, you saw it, and it was beyond infuriating.
There you go. From the 573, why is BK acting like the season is over? From Carrot, Cards are still in it. Shut up. From the 314, guys, we still have meaningful baseball. We're going to make the playoffs. That's why this is better. Because as much as I disagree with all of those things, I totally disagree with those statements. I think the season, it is what it is. Let's be real.
It's like it was last year.
Yeah. They're going through the regression. We have seen it all happen right before our very eyes. In 2 weeks, if they play well, they could be right back in it. Now, I will also still probably not believe it because this is still the same team that they will be in 2 weeks for the most part. But it is true. They're currently 2.5 games back. And if you want to convince yourself, if you want to believe, you can. That's still a possibility for you. With the Blues at this point in the season, you really had to be stretching to believe that they were going to find a way to make it to the postseason. I guess you could technically tell yourself a story, but it didn't feel real until we got to 1 month left, maybe. And then you could really dream on it, but still it felt like you weren't as good as the other teams that were in the playoff mix. And the National League, most of these other teams stink. And if you have a good 2 week stretch, you're right back in it. So that is a big part of why I think this was a better way to go if you could choose which of the two ways you ultimately fail.
Hey, we had people saying in, March that the Cardinals or the Blues could still do it. They could still get in. And then they played San Jose and lost 3-0. And I'm like, oh, okay, that was it. That was fun, guys. Now we're done.
Yeah, well, think BK said one good week. So we're talking the Cardinals going, what, 5-2 in a 7-game stretch, and they could be right back in it, or hell, in this National League, they could be in a playoff spot. Well, you're talking about the Blues having to do another 13-game winning streak.
Yeah, it's a very different thing.
Let that sink in for a moment. To even I've brought this up before. It was what 12-13 2 years ago when they got in on the winning streak. 1 game fewer in that winning streak, and they missed the playoffs.
Yep.
That's why it's better to get off to the fast start rather than hoping to get to that fast start at the end of the year.
Just to put that in context, if the Cardinals over their next 13 games went 9-4, they're probably in a playoff spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, with the Blues, it was 13-0 or bust. That's the difference between the two situations that they find themselves in. All right. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Questions and answers in 15 minutes. But next, big news in the NHL earlier today is one of the best players in the league just signed a long-term contract. What does it say for the rest of the league over the next couple of years when it comes to contract status? We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a SportsCenter update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. Last night, the St. Louis Cardinals fell to the Chicago Cubs as they dropped 10-2. Game 3 of their 4-game set will be tonight. 6:45 will be first pitch. Dustin May on the mound for St. Louis. Matthew Boyd will get the start for Chicago. The SportsCenter update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
Macklin Celebrini is somehow underpaid and also a very rich man. That was the news earlier today. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, the Sharks agreed to a 5-year, $94 million extension. This is $18.8 million per year, Alex, making him the highest paid player in NHL history.
This beats out Leo Carlson, the next guy that should be 18 mil.
And it somehow feels like a slight underpay.
Oh, it is.
Given how excellent Macklin Celebrini is. What was your reaction earlier today when you saw the news, Alex?
That he should reset the market, because we shouldn't even be having the conversation, because I think the Leo Carlson made this like, oh no, what Celebrini's going to look like. $18.5 million is an underpay for this guy, because I mean, he's just a unicorn. And I think where this was headed felt like it was going to be around like 20 something, but Macklin Celebrini was probably looking at it as, well, I'll give you a little bit of a savings with $1.5 million, but what you should pay me. But this was just getting locked up. I think this was now San Jose not having to worry about any offer sheet problems. Lock them up. Now you know what our contracts are going to look like. Nobody is going to be paid more than Macklin Celebrini on this roster. So now we build our team accordingly.
You also now have like the ceiling in the NHL, right? At least for today.
Yeah. And next year is going to be gone once again.
I think you're going to see McDavid reset this again sooner rather than later. Cale Makar probably resets it as
Quinn
well.
Hughes might reset it in the next couple of months.
19 probably for him, maybe closer to 20. I think this is the new range, right? That $18 to $20 million is what you're going to see the elite of the elite NHL players. Correct. That's where they're going to slot in, which means as a Blues fan, I would recommend being prepared for a guy like Snuggerud. If he does not sign this offseason, if he does not sign early, I think you're going to end up having to pay more than what you're probably expecting for somebody like that. If you end up, like if Jiricek becomes every bit as good as people expect, he's going to get in that like $15 million range as a legit top 4, maybe top 2 defenseman on a quality NHL team. The market is just reset in a way that I don't think any of us were prepared for, and it happened quicker than a lot of us were prepared for.
Yeah, like each position I feel like has its own market, and the center position, of course, is probably the most lucrative because of everything that they do. And now you're seeing it's 18 to 20 mil is what you're going to be looking at. Wingers, I think you're going to see somewhere about like 11 to 15. Dorofiev, I think, kind of set that market this offseason when he signed that contract, but that's 40-goal numbers, so you got to get the 40 plus to be a winger. And I think defensemen are probably looking at what Bo Byram just signed for. You're probably looking at somewhere between $12 to $13 million for that tier, and then you get to the elite of the elite when it's Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes. Those any superstar player that you have on your team that's a 90 to a 100-point player, plan on something to 15 to more.
So previously, $12 million was that, where it was, hey, if you are Macklin Celebrini, Connor McDavid, Cale Makar, you're getting that $10 to $12 million range. Now those guys are getting 18 to 20. So that's bumped up from 10 to 12 to 18 to 20. That's a huge increase in the new cap spike. Those guys that used to be like the Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou range that are in the like $8-ish million, kind of 7 to 9 is where you would typically slot those guys in. They're now closer to like 11 to 13. And then everything else kind of goes in from there. Like the old $6 million player is now 8 to 9.
Yeah.
Which also, by the way, makes Robert Thomas that much more valuable. It makes Colton Parayko's contract look that much better. It makes the deals that they signed this offseason with Broberg and Holloway look that much better. So the Blues are in a good spot with a lot of these contracts, but everything has just been reset in a pretty meaningful way.
If Robert Thomas can become that 100-point player that we all believe he can become, and that's 30 goals, 70 assists, he's going to be the best steal contract in the National Hockey League, because centers don't 100-point centermen don't make $8 million anymore. And you've got $8 million for 5 more years.
Pretty incredible.
So that's how you build a Stanley Cup contender when you have guys on that type of contracts and you can formulate around it.
I always used to go back to, I remember the Cardinals, this is when they signed Dexter Fowler ultimately, but they were in trade negotiations with, I think it was the White Sox at the time, who ended up dealing Adam Eaton, who was like a fine player, decent, got on base at a high clip, just good all around. But the value in Adam Eaton was not so much the player, it was the contract. He was signed for, I think, like 5 more years. Now, it aged poorly, but at the time, it felt like it was an absolute steal. Like, it was like $10 million a year. And so the idea was you can get him at $10 million a year, or you can pay a guy like Dexter Fowler closer to, I think it was like $18 or $20 million a year. And with that gap there of literally double the price, is it worth it to use that in prospect pedigree, or do you just spend the cash? Cardinals ultimately decided it was cash because Lucas Giolito was involved in that deal, and he was one of the top prospects in Major League Baseball. It's just going to cost too much to get Adam Eaton. The reason I bring this up is because that is now the equivalent of Robert Thomas, where Thomas is that guy where, yes, the player is super valuable. The contract is nearly as valuable as the player is at this point in time. And that's why if you ever got into a position where you were potentially going to trade him in the future, the haul you would get for Robert Thomas, I think, is up there with just about, like, his trade value is among the highest in the NHL because of his contract and because of how underpaid he is relative to his current production. Speaking of which, Alex, over on Sportsnet, they disrespected the hell out of your young St. Louis Blues earlier today.
POS. Are you kidding me?
This wasn't even a Dom piece. Couldn't believe it.
I probably read it then, if that's the case.
According to this piece by Sonny Sakdeva,
nailed it.
Okay. He writes for Sportsnet.
Never heard of him.
Ranking the top 5 under 25 cores across the NHL. I'll read you the top 5 real quick, Alex. His rankings. Number 1, the Montreal Canadiens. Number 2, San Jose Sharks. I think there's...
I would flip those two.
Sure. I get it.
Macklin, Celebrini, and 3 other first overall picks. I'd probably go there.
Number 3, the Anaheim Ducks with Carlson, Gauthier, Lacombe, and Minchikov. Number 4, the Ottawa Senators. And number 5, the Philadelphia Flyers. Among the honorable mentions here were the Chicago Blackhawks, Carolina Hurricanes, and Minnesota Wild.
What a joke.
Blues not among the top 8 when it comes to their core under the age of 25. Alex, you agree with that?
I don't, but here's the one part that my level-headedness will try and reason. I wonder if they looked at this and say, well, some of their core pieces are like 25, and we're trying to go under 25 because Holloway is 25, Broberg's 25, and Hofer's 25. And those are like 3 huge pieces. But they do have guys on here who are 25.
I think it's 25 and under.
So that's the part that I think is a joke.
is 25.
And so is Dylan Cousins, I believe, and Shane Pinto.
And Lacombe.
So here's the thing for me. I don't disagree one bit with Montreal or San Jose. I can have my qualms with Anaheim, but Carlson, Gauthier, and Seneke, those are 3 really good pieces. I don't think the defensemen are at the same level, but fine. The part that frustrates me is everybody below it. Ottawa, I don't know if you guys, like, Tim Stützle's a good player, but we've all agreed they use him as a center, and he's not really a center.
Would you rather have Tim Stützle or
Dylan Holloway? I'd rather have Dylan Holloway. And I know people would say that's crazy because of what Stützle's done. I think Holloway can do what Stützle's done, and he's a better defender.
What about Shane Pinto? Do the Blues have an equivalent of Shane Pinto on their roster? I would say that's where they maybe are a little above you.
Not right now. And I totally can understand that. I think the hope is that
McTavish.
Or Dvorsky. And the McTavish ones I find interesting. The reason that they're there, look at William Eklund and Dylan Cousins. William Eklund has been like a 15-goal scorer. Is Jake Neighbors under 25? I think he's 24, right?
No.
Is he over it?
No, he did. Yeah, he qualified. Yep.
Jake Neighbors and William Eklund have put up very similar numbers in their career. And Eklund is a horrible defensive player. Dylan Cousins in the first 4 seasons in the NHL, the same equivalent that Mason McTavish has played. Dylan Cousins, 362 games, 82 goals, 213 points, a -58. McTavish has played 60 fewer games, 3 fewer goals, 80 fewer points, and a -54.
That's interesting.
And here's the other thing. Why I think Philadelphia is kind of a joke. Porter Martoni is probably a big reason why they've moved up there, but Trevor Zegras is on there. Trevor Zegras, 67 goals in 268 games and a -48. McTavish has scored more and has more points than Trevor Zegras.
I think the Blues are in a really interesting spot. I think there's a chance by the end of this upcoming season, the Blues are top 3 to 4 on this list.
I agree. I think they're probably right below the Anaheim Ducks. And that was my other qualm with this. None of these, with the exception of Montreal, have a goaltender on here. And the fact that you have a goaltender who's under the age or at 25 and is probably better than all of these goaltenders, that's the thing that I think gives them a little bit of a leapfrog.
For those curious, the following Blues players would qualify for this kind of a list, 25 or under. Holloway, McTavish, McMichael, Neighbors, Snuggie, and Dvorsky. Those are your forwards. Defensemen include Broberg, Lindstein, Mayu, and Jiricek, and then the goalie would be Joel Hofer.
Sure.
I think part of what the Blues have going for them here is just the quantity. Yeah. They just have a ton of players at age 25 or younger. Yeah, who I would not expect him to be in the NHL for most of the year, but sure, yeah, he could be a part of this group by the end of the season as well. But for right now, you've got 6 forwards, 4 defensemen, and 1 goalie on this list.
Yeah.
That's more than any other team on any of these lists that are currently in the top 8, according to this list. There's a chance that we're wrong on McMichael and McTavish, and they just end up becoming like third-line players on a good team. There's a chance Dvorsky is what he is, and he's a third-line center long-term, and there's just not another step for him. There's a chance that Lindstein is like a third defenseman on a good team, same thing for Mayu, and that Jiricek doesn't become what they want him to be. And if all of that happens, they don't belong on a top 8.
Yeah.
There's also a chance, though, the inverse of what I just said happens, and then suddenly you're talking about them in the top 4. There's that kind of upside for the Blues, and if it happens, they're probably making the playoffs this year, and their outlook is as good as just about any team in the NHL, maybe not named the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, and
because you don't have somebody that can go head-to-head against a Macklin.
And that's why I can't get too upset with these, because, I mean, you do have a lot of ifs. Like, you have a lot of unknowns with McTavish and McMichael, but I was looking at Cousins and Zegras, and I'm like, man, McTavish has put up the same amount of points as these guys, and he's 2 years younger, and he's got a higher draft pedigree. So that's where you're going on the upside, and that's why the Blues made that trade.
I think somebody on the text line makes a fair point. We'll get to questions and answers on the other side. From the 636, guys, none of these players for the Blues have that kind of star power. That's what I think they're missing. You're going to need somebody. If you really want to get higher on this list, like Cole Caulfield, last year had a star-level season. Macklin Celebrini, that guy's a superstar. Gauthier had a legit star-caliber season last year. I think maybe the team that is the lowest on that list would be the Senators. I don't know that they have a true superstar.
Somebody would say Stützle, but I just don't view Stützle in that same light.
I think Porter Martone, given what he did last year, kind of fits into
very
that criteria.
Small sample size, but very similar to what Snuggerud did, though, in his first portion of a season.
I would say a little higher upside, but sure. Like Zegras last year also had a really special season. That's what you need. You need Dylan Holloway to take that next step. And if he does, I think you're in the same conversation with these teams. And I believe he has that kind of upside.
And he's done it in back-to-back seasons. He's got to do it for 82, though. You can't do it for 50. You got to do it for 82 to get to that level.
Coming up next, questions and answers here on BK and Ferrario. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and get them in right now. From the 636, BK, what was your reaction yesterday when you realized that you BKO'd Dobbins being sent down?
Also BKO'd McGreevy.
Oh, boy, that one was bad.
You were like, I can't wait to see this guy. Competitive pitcher. I love watching him work.
I didn't like that last
guy was done in 3 innings.
I actually wanted to go give him a hug. I felt bad.
I felt so bad for him.
So my immediate reaction, you guys got the wrath of it in our text chain.
Boy, did
I was
we.
pretty mad. I was pretty upset.
All caps.
But then we got the report from Jeff Jones, and just full disclosure, I was unaware of this at the time. I'll plead ignorance.
Same.
I did not realize that they could come back up in the event of a trade. I thought that was only injury related. So if the Cardinals were to trade, and this is our understanding from Jeff Jones reporting, and he got it from Ollie Marmol, so I would assume he knows. If the Cardinals trade Dustin May, for example, our understanding is they can bring back up Hunter Dobbins without him needing to wait the full 15 days.
It negates the 15 days.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it actually makes all the sense in the world for them to do this.
I like how Ollie, too, just made sure that before anybody overreacted to it, he was like, hey, it gets negated if we make a trade.
Yep.
AKA,
So smart.
wink,
We will be
wink.
seeing him back in a couple of days.
We might be making a trade in a couple days from our rotation.
That's what I read once we had the actual update on it. I'm like, oh, okay, so basically somebody in that rotation is going to be gone, and Hunter Dobbins will be back.
In other words, thank you for your services, Dustin, man.
Oh, well,
enjoy
there's
tonight.
There's
Enjoy
other
tonight.
guys. It's kind of like roulette.
Yeah. I feel pretty confident in saying Dustin May is probably going to be elsewhere
You
by
think
this
he
time
feels
next
pretty
week.
confident in that, too?
I would say so, yes. All right, 314-399-9646
Takes it all in
is the
before
Air
he
Comfort
walks
Service
off
text line.
in
From
the third.
573, guys, would Major League Baseball teams be interested in taking on Nolan Gorman at the deadline for a possible power bat off of the bench? I'm thinking a contending team that would look to buy him on the cheap.
How can you be a power bat off the bench if you've shown no power?
I
Hit
hear
AAA
you.
pitching.
Guys, I have seen worse players than Nolan Gorman acquired at the deadline. Truly.
Like who?
A couple of years ago, who was the
Harrison
guy
Bader?
for the White Sox that had all of the pedigree in the world, was absolutely terrible. Orioles got him as their quote-unquote big deadline ad. I forget his name, but
Sounded very good.
Are you
he was
talking to
terrible.
Trevor Rogers?
No, position player. Why am I blanking on his name? I'll look it up, but they acquired him at a trade deadline. He was supposed to be a part of the White Sox core that ultimately failed, and he was awful, and he continued to
Look,
be terrible.
I'm using sarcasm there. Jim Bowden even told us this
Eloy
yesterday.
Jimenez. Remember he was dealt at the trade deadline?
Yeah, pretty high pedigree though, right?
So did Nolan Gorman.
Not anymore.
Correct. Just like Eloy Jimenez when he was traded to the Orioles that season, he hit .238 with a .335 on slugging percentage. He was terrible. He had not been good in Major League Baseball in a while.
I don't think somebody
And he had
takes
no position.
I don't
He's in
think
baseball
somebody
now still? Holy cow.
I don't think
playing for the
anybody
Blue Jays.
takes a chance on him at the deadline. I think that's an off-season move.
The part I would disagree on from the text isn't so much of could he be traded. It's possible because BK's right. There are bad players that get traded. I think that tells you more about that organization because BK mentioned Baltimore, not exactly thriving.
Agreed.
Than it does about anything else. But the only caveat I would add to the text, I don't think a contender's trading for him. I think it's probably a rebuilding team that may say, hey, we'll send you a lottery ticket prospect or some cash, whatever you want, and we'll just take a shot on Gorman. We'll put him in our minor leagues or on our major league system and see if we can fix him.
You know who I think is a team that could do something like this? The Tampa Bay Rays. And I could see them trading just like a guy that they view as having no future in their system, pitching-wise, and they take on Gorman and option him down to AAA. Say, hopefully we figure it out, and if not, whatever. We're at nothing. You know, that's the kind of organization that I could see making a move like this because he's still cheap and cost controlled. And then if he becomes something with them, like the Isaac Paredes, remember they did this with him. They take him on, and then eventually they flip him. So I could see something.
I'd be surprised if it happened. The way I would say it, I'd be very surprised if Nolan Gorman was traded by the deadline.
He's somehow worse in AAA.
Yeah, he's been terrible.
That doesn't
I think
help
he's
the cause.
starting to heat back up a little bit.
Good. It couldn't have gotten any
I was
worse.
going to say, you can't really get colder from where he was, though.
314-399-9646 is the Your Comfort Service text line. From the 618, in 2 years, do you guys think any of the current starting pitchers in the Cardinals rotation will still be in the rotation? I think McGreevy will.
Yeah, I think McGreevy.
Yeah, I think there's at least one, maybe a path to two, but one would be the one that I feel most comfortable with. That would be McGreevy. The reason I say two, there's maybe a chance like you could still see like a Leahy or a Palante here, but I think that would be the maximum is 2 at most.
From Moistus to Lou, do you guys think Lindor gets moved at the trade deadline? I do not.
Nope.
No, that's a big trade to try and pull off at the deadline.
Yeah, especially because it sounds like the Mets don't want to eat money, which why I have no idea. But it doesn't sound like they will, and if they're not going to eat money, he's not getting moved.
From the 314, if the Trailblazers were to move to St. Louis, would you be in favor of them keeping their name or starting fresh with a completely new name? I would start fresh.
I think when you go to a new city, you want to try and get as many people on board as possible, and the idea of starting fresh with a new organization name is how you can do that.
I agree. I also like the history is Portland's. It's not St. Louis's. So I will say, like, the Trailblazers thing, obviously, like the Oregon Trail, that's the tie-in there. From here, there are plenty of trails around here, so it would make sense geographically, but I
played
would
the
want
Oregon Trail growing up. I died from dysentery every once in a while.
Did you? T-Bone,
Did you ever
no
play that,
chance.
T-Bone? No idea. He's looking at me with the blankest stare.
No chance.
Denny knows the game.
Check it out, T-Bone. It's a fun game.
Yeah,
I think it's in like 32-bit. Is that what that's called? 16-bit? It's very old school.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'd be in favor of changing the name. What it would be, I don't know, but I'm in favor.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll dive into some NFL quick hitters. We'll talk to Chris Kerber for our weekly chat with the voice of the Blues at 12:30. But next, some really intriguing comments yesterday from Masyn Winn to Jeff Jones. What do we make of these? We'll pass them along next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So Masyn Winn had some intriguing comments yesterday to Jeff Jones. This is part of his Words About Birds, Alex. It's a subscription-based thing. I recommend checking this out. I think he's done a really good job with this season. I wanted to read a few of these quotes to you. All right, Alex?
Cool.
All of this is, again, from Masyn Winn. It is one-on-one with Jeff Jones. I want to give him full credit for getting these quotes, and you can read it, and you should subscribe to his Words About Birds subscription-based model. Quote, I think the front office had their minds made up on whether they want to trade or not. He continues, I don't think how we've played this year would have changed that. Heim had a plan coming into the season. I think he's been very open and transparent. He's got a plan for the organization, and he wants to go through with it. We could win every game for the rest of the year, and he would still trade guys.
Wow. Well, I mean, only got like 6 games to deal with before you get to the deadline, but
he's saying for the rest of the year.
Well, yeah, but the trades have already happened.
Let's continue. More from Masyn Winn, again, to Jeff Jones. Quote, I think the plan coming into it was, okay, D-May did well, and then trade him off to get some pieces. I'm assuming Stanek. I'm assuming JoJo. Just kind of who you would expect it to be. I don't think anybody's really been thinking about it throughout the year, but it just is what it is. When I got called up, we were 20 games under 500. Guys had already given up on the season. Guys didn't want to be around, didn't really want to be there. I think part of it is whenever you trade good guys, good teammates, it's definitely going to hurt the clubhouse. And I think everybody knows that. You try not to think about it. You try to get past it. You just keep playing. He then finished his quotes to Jeff Jones with the following. We're going to go out there. We're going to try to win. Whoever's here after the deadline is here, and we're going to keep balling.
Hell yeah.
What do you make of those quotes?
Boy, a frustrated player for where they're at, but an honest player.
Yep.
I don't disagree with anything that he said.
How could you?
I have been saying that from the beginning of this season, and it carried over. Like, we can have our opinions on what they should do. Heim has made it very clear, and he only needed 1 press conference to do it, not like 4 when Mo did it. 1 press conference.
It was only 3.
It was 4. We had like 2 extras. Of saying, like, look, we are not going to veer off of the path that we are trying to accomplish. There's a long-term goal, and short-term success isn't going to dictate that. So I agree with what Masyn is saying, but I also think it's a frustrated player because as a player, that's got to bother the hell out of you. Like, we played the Lance Lynn audio yesterday of him being like, you know, like, how do you not think about the fact that J.J. Weatherholt got money and you didn't when it's his first year in the league? I'm not saying that plays into these comments, but that on top of you having all of the success and feeling like, look, they're going to do this no matter what, it can take away from some of the thrill that you're going with. And with all of the frustration of where the team is at and how bad they've been, I think that it just built up with Masyn Winn that it's like, look, regardless of what we would have done this season, this was always the path that the Cardinals were going down. And as a player, that sucks when you exceed expectations.
Everything you just said and everything Masyn Winn said, co-signed by me. I think he's right. I think what he's saying is objectively true. And also, I wonder how this plays with Cardinals fans. Like, if you're a fan hearing this from Masyn Winn, what is your reaction to it? Because we've already got a few texts. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. And I was curious what the fan reaction would be to those comments. Because I think they're honest and they're interesting. And I like when players are honest and interesting.
Because it happens like once
never
a year.
happens.
Very rare, and they typically do not get rewarded, which is why they don't say things that are honest or interesting very often. From Sir Tripod, I'll be honest, I think my interest in trading Masyn grows every day. Somebody else said he needs to shut up and focus on his game.
Get out of here.
Another one says, I'd like to respond to Winn by saying if your team was playing well and we're 5 to 10 games over 500, I think Blue wouldn't be trading those players away. But here we are, you're 1 game under.
That's not how it should be taken in my opinion. You know how much fans complain of the chalk answers that players give, of the just Just
Do they? I think we complain more about
I
that.
think
Yeah,
fans
I think it's
don't.
mostly us.
Oh no, I think fans don't like
fans
it.
like tuning in the press conferences, which I never understand because they are literally boring.
Man,
and they don't say anything until the one time they do.
I feel differently.
I'll ask you a quick question, and I don't mean this to sound the way that it's probably going to, I promise.
Thanks for the tone warning, though.
Well, you can't warn us with tone. You try to avoid the tone.
Has JJ said anything interesting since he signed with the Cardinals?
No. I didn't need you to finish that sentence.
I don't say that as a criticism. Did Paul Goldschmidt ever say anything interesting?
No.
Arenado did.
Nolan Arenado said a lot
And
of
he got
interesting
criticized for it.
I was about to say, yeah,
I was
you're
there.
correct.
I was there the moment he did, and I went, nah, I think you're kind of wrong on this one, Nolan.
I don't think that's how it should be. I feel like people
I agree with you.
I feel like people get frustrated with the cliche answers because it's like, stop feeding us BS and give us real answers. And maybe it's people want it both ways. I don't think that's how it should be. I want guys to be honest. The only way guys are honest and willing to give answers of how they truly feel is if it doesn't get pushback. Now, there's times where I feel like honesty is dumb, like what Kairu said. I don't think that should have been stated. That should have just been like, hey, man, don't say anything. That's when you give the chalk answer.
That was an objectively bad answer.
For sure. That's when you give the chalk answer.
There's a difference between being interesting and saying something that's not only unpopular, but like just one of those things you don't say out loud.
This is just, I mean, like this, and like I know people got frustrated with Jason Hayward at the time. I was glad Jason Hayward said what he said because it gave you an honest answer of why he didn't go with the Cardinals.
Agreed. It was also the thing that somebody says about your team, kind of like your little brother. I can pick on my little brother. You can't pick on my little brother.
But I know my little brother's a stinker, and what you're saying is right. But yeah, don't say it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
look where the Cardinals ended up.
No,
What he said was right.
He was right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, unfortunately, like the honest answer might not be what you want to hear. But it's where the team was at. And I think Cardinals fans are probably frustrated with it because they were fine with where the Cardinals were
Can
headed.
I add something to this? And I don't mean for this to sound as bad as it's going to either, but it's going to be sounding bad.
Avoid it.
I think these comments are part of why they haven't re-signed him.
Oh, I agree with that, too.
You know, like I think it just speaks to his mentality. I like it. As a fan of the team, as somebody on the outside that observes the team, you guys know how much I love Masyn Winn. I enjoy watching the guy play baseball. I think he's a truly special defender. Like one of the best defensive players, regardless of position, in all of Major League Baseball. And I would say over the last decade, he fits into that kind of a conversation. Where if you're doing a Mount Rushmore of best Major League defenders over the last decade, there's a pretty good case to be made that he should be on that list somewhere. As a hitter, I think it's been a little underwhelming. I think it's fair to say that. I understand the criticism there. And when it comes to like this kind of stuff, I think the stuff that they said about JJ in the press conference was noteworthy. Or they said, we trust him. A big part of why we gave JJ Weatherholt the extension is because we trust his process. We trust who he's going to be. We trust everything about JJ Weatherholt. And I think part of that is mindset. It is the way that you carry yourself. It's the way you talk to the media. It's all of it. It's all encompassing. And I think this is part of the thing with Masyn where he is a little bit more spicy. Of a personality. Yeah, spicy. And I think there's value in that. I think you need some of that within a team.
Nobody likes a taco with no spice.
I don't think it's good to have a team that is all Boy Scouts. I think the Cardinals became that for a little while, and I think they needed some of the Masyn Winn energy, the Wilson Contreras energy, the we're going to kick your ass on the baseball field every game. I think you needed some of that. I also think there is a point where you say to yourself, all right, how long does that last, though? Is it something that we want to reward with a long-term extension, or is it more of a, we'll keep you around here while you're cheap and under club control?
Let me ask you this then. If that was Jordan Walker saying the same thing instead of Masyn Winn, how would people be reacting today?
I think that's really interesting.
Because I think part of it is just the performance from the player, too.
There's definitely some of that.
Because if Jordan Walker is saying the same thing, I think we are applauding him as a leader of this team.
Because I think that was Arenado.
Did you guys see what Bryce Harper said yesterday, by the way?
Yeah.
No.
He basically said they need help.
Yeah, Bryce Harper came out and said, we need help. We need hitters. We need pitchers. We don't have enough here. And they're doing the same thing the Cardinals are. They're like 3-8 in their last 11. Yeah. And Don Mattingly, to your point on the production, Don Mattingly today held a press conference with the media and said, you can't say that publicly, because that's calling out your teammates. It's not only calling out the front office, it's also saying what we have here isn't good enough. The guys next to me inside of this locker room can't get the job done. We need somebody else. That may be true,
but the players
as a leader,
may feel like what Bryce Harper's saying.
Some of them may. Some of them, though, are getting called out by your leader.
Yeah,
and that is not something you can do publicly. You can go behind the closed doors and go to your front office and say that to them. But once you start saying that kind of stuff publicly, that would be like me saying on the show, Alex, I would never do this. You guys know that, I hope. I would never say this, but that would be like me coming on air and saying, Alex isn't strong enough on the Cardinals. I think we need another voice to be added on the team to talk more Cardinals.
I think he's saying that because he believes it.
Yeah, and like he's a guy that takes credit and passes the blame.
Or it would be like Alex saying, BK's not good enough on the Blues. I need to add in a third voice to help us out with the Blues.
Did you hear my conversation with Ryder?
Even if you believe that, you would not say that to our audience. Yeah. You would go say that to Ryder. You would go say that to Tommy Mattern or John Kiowski. Yeah. You keep that stuff behind closed doors. So I do think maybe there's a case to be made that fans would react more positively to Jordan Walker being the messenger or Michael McGreevy being the messenger as opposed to Masyn Winn. But I still think there would be some pushback of like, hey, man, don't say that publicly.
I think these
two
are
also
different.
A little different, though, than saying we should go get help.
Like Bryce, I agree with you. I think Harper's was a little, that definitely came from like Harper, Schwarber, and I don't know, Wheeler all had like a little team meeting in the shower and said, hey, we need some help. It probably occurred there, though. And then he went out and blamed teammates, right?
That's fair.
Because he knows he can do it.
This is a finger at the front office. This isn't at teammates, right? This is Winn saying, and I think to your point on if Walker said this, I think it's the same thing Arenado would have said.
It was
and everybody celebrated
what
Arenado said because he was the superstar. I do think it is the pedigree of the player that matters here. Even though I agree with Masyn Winn saying it, I think that's why it gets a little bit more scrutinized. Masyn Winn might be the voice of what the clubhouse is thinking. Where, hey, man, no matter what we did, the front office is going to sell. And I think that really started to boil up when Milwaukee came to town for 5.
The thing is, like, Jeff has quotes from 4 different guys, and Winn was the only one that said anything interesting.
Yeah,
and that's Burleson the thing. Was quoted in this. Libby was quoted in this as well. And neither of them said anything even close to what Masyn Winn had to say in this. He was the only one that gave that kind of an answer. And so that's why I think it stands out, is because everybody in that clubhouse is being asked this stuff right now, including Ollie Marmol, by the way, who's being asked daily. I promise you, I've been in the room when it's been asked, what's the plan? How do you approach this? All of these different things. The only one that said anything interesting about it or noteworthy is Masyn Winn so far. And that's an interesting, T-Bone, what you say is fair. Maybe this is representative of the team. He's just the only one that's out here actually saying it. And so it makes me wonder, what's leading to that? Why is Winn saying it publicly? You know, is he frustrated? Is there something more behind those words? I don't know, but it does lead to some of those questions.
Yeah, and maybe it is he just decided, you know what, I am the one that is fed up with it, because the one thing that I think if you had a veteran like a Arenado or Goldie, I think whoever the veteran would have been around this locker room would have been the one that said this. Yeah. But they don't have one, right? I mean, this is the part that we were interested to see as it unfolded through the season.
It's a good point.
They don't have that guy. Like, Harper's the guy for Philly, right? He is the veteran. He is the highest paid player. This probably would have been Wilson last year saying this, if we're being honest. Or Sonny Gray. He came out and said the Red Sox suck like 3 weeks before they went on a run. Maybe he sparked something. Who knows?
This is Winn basically saying, I'll be the leader.
Yeah, I wonder if that's him trying to see about taking that step of becoming that guy. Because, like, yeah, Burley may have spoken this piece. Libby spoken this piece. Libby could not be the leader. But Burley, like, he's just taking the chalk answer, right? I mean, these guys have such good media training to avoid these. I find it interesting because I think everything you said to your guys' point is fair, because the front office has sabotaged them over the last, like, 3 weeks.
Yeah. That's a little aggressive, but
I don't know if it is.
I don't know, man. Like, Milwaukee, like, I'm not sure how much they were really trying in that series.
To throw Libby
with their
out
moves.
there.
Throwing Libby out there constantly. It's not like ultra aggressive sabotaging, but they definitely weren't helping the team.
They let it die on the vine in the way that I said all year they hadn't.
Well, they did it last year too. I mean, it's back-to-back seasons where Masyn Winn has saw it happen.
Different front office than what happened
front
last
office,
year.
But it still happened within the same organization.
The reason that I bring this up is because all year I had said, and we had mentioned this on the air, the Cardinals aren't letting it die on the vine the way they did last year. And that was true up until about 2 weeks ago. And then something changed, and there was either, in their mind, a lack of moves available with the AAA roster, or they chose not to make them. Either way, they didn't make the roster moves that we all kind of had hoped or expected them to make. So I think there is some criticism that is fair here, T-Bone, but I'm just not willing to go as far as to say they have like sabotaged the season. I wonder because there's a mixed reaction, I would say, on the text line right now to the Winn comments. I think for the audience, the fans, it's maybe mixed. For the clubhouse, there might be more guys that agree with it than not. I wonder how this is received by the front office. And ultimately, those are his bosses. Those are the guys that decide what his future is here in St. Louis. And that, to me, is really where this thing gets a little interesting.
Yeah.
Of what his future's going to be with this team. Because there were already questions, I think, among the three of us.
And that's why I guess you wonder if Masyn Winn has the same questions that we've had and just says, you know what? The hell with it.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated. If I get moved, I get moved, but I'm not going to be afraid to speak my mind, because if there is a little bit of leadership aspect to it, you look at it and say, whatever. If this is the path that they're going to go, do I want to be a part of it? And I'm not putting words in his mouth. I'm not saying that's what he's thinking. It's a tinfoil theory of, do you finally get to the point where you saw it last year with one front office group? You see it with a different front office group. You know that's going to be here long term, and you say, is this what it's going to be? And what's the worst thing that can happen to me? I'm a Gold Glove defensive player. What's the worst that's going to happen to me?
Final thing on this real quick. The other piece of this that I find really interesting, Masyn Winn hasn't played for a winner yet. That is a very different upbringing than your typical Cardinals young players.
Yeah.
But you think about it. I mean, he mentioned it in that quote. When he got here, they were 20 games under 500. And since then, this is kind of what it's been. Mediocrity to bad for the most part. And if that's the only thing that he knows as a major leaguer inside of this organization, it does take some like, hey, we're doing this. We're actually getting to the winning before you can believe that you're going to do much winning. Like in his experience, this does not make it so, but in his experience, the Cardinals have been a losing organization. That is not the fans' view of the organization, because they have not been that historically. But for him and for most of the guys on the team, if we're being real, the team's been a loser since they've been up at the big league level.
He's only
It's the title of the show today. We're losers.
and he's only
Are we losers?
We're losers, man. Damn.
and he's, to your point, he's only heard the stories of the 40,000 showing up to the stadium,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they haven't really sold out, but what, the home opener? Maybe a couple games
Tarps
earlier
off.
this year
Got
when the tarps off
pretty
moment happened.
intense.
And to that point, like Ali made a comment last week I disagreed with. We didn't touch on it, but I disagreed with where he said, "Did you hear that? There was no booing. That was a sign of respect." I viewed that as a sign of this is acceptance to what this organization's becoming, not an acceptance of, hey, you guys really give good effort. To me, that was a, hey man, people just don't care about what you do anymore because you haven't been, in Wynn's mind, which is true, a winning organization since he's been around.
Alongside T-Bone and Alex, I'm BK. NFL Quick Hitters is next. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. T-Bone said to us earlier today, Alex, oh, you know it's NFL football season because it's holding time.
It's T-Bone's favorite time of the year.
Star running backs Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs appear to be hold-ins, quote-unquote,
Nice.
as they seek their new contracts.
Did you see his new haircut, by the way, Bijan?
No.
Oh, no.
He looks like a genie.
Really?
It's like he's bald and he's just got one like big piece of hair that just hangs off like a little
Hasn't
loop.
that always been his?
No,
haircut?
because it's been
Didn't he
like
have, the lock,
Yeah, it's kind of like
dreadlocks?
a mullet or something like that he's had with locks in the back. But no, yeah, look it up because he's just got one little big lock on the front of his head and it dips down. He looks like a genie.
Okay.
I wonder if he's going to grant his team 3 wishes.
Or his team grants him 1 wish.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you're the highest paid running back in the
get
NFL.
more money.
Would you be willing to do it if you were the Falcons?
I think you have to do it if you're the Falcons. Would I be willing to? I don't know if I want to pay running backs, but I think you have to because that's the identity of your team.
I agree.
It's not Tua anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to, and I think if you're the Lions, you kind of have to too, because much as we talk about the
you
Lions,
definitely need to.
Gibbs is the most explosive piece on that offense. So I think both teams have to do it in this situation.
Oh, I had not seen this, Alex.
No, yeah, he looks like a genie, doesn't he?
Okay. He went full bald. Like, he took
Yeah.
the Bic to it.
Yeah.
And then it's just one piece. So he used to have, like, the mohawk almost, if you will.
It's like hair, but then the
Okay.
mullet in the back. This
Yeah.
is legit like just one big corn roll on the top of his head and it hangs off.
That's wild. Okay.
It's like the genie, I'm telling you.
These are 2 guys that you have to pay. They're the identity of their respective offenses. Like, if you're the Lions and you don't pay Jahmyr Gibbs, you cease to be what you once were. The identity of that offense, as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown is their running game. That is what they were built upon. And then the play-action passing game off of that. And if you think about the way that the league is trending right now in the NFL, it is about the running game. And if you want to be a contender, you damn well better be able to run the football. That's what the Chiefs learned from a year ago. They couldn't, and they go out and give a huge contract to Kenneth Walker to be able to, boost up what they're doing in that regard. So I think both of them are worth it. I would also add this. If you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man, just pay Vita Vea. I know he's 31. I understand. It's going to suck when he's 36 and you're paying him still. But Vita Vea is one of 3 nose tackles that actually matters in the league. And in a league where the running game has become this important, having a nose tackle that can stop the run and help you against the pass, it's incredibly valuable. So he's the other one that's in the hold-in right now. I think he should get the deal as well.
I saw the report that he didn't want to be there anymore, that he wanted to go to a California team.
So he wants a contract.
Call it the Rams.
But they have been stalemating him the entire offseason. So now with 1 year remaining on his deal,
I want out.
he's like, okay, well, if you're not going to give me the contracts that I'm looking for, I'm 31. Eventually, I've got to go somewhere else.
And I kind of don't blame Vita Vea in that front if you get to that point, because just looking at the landscape of the Buccaneers, I don't know how healthy they're going to have in the near future. Like,
They've got to get Baker's deal done, too.
I don't know what the Bucs are doing.
Yeah, a lot of
they've
business.
moved on from Mike Evans. Chris Godwin's old. Like, I know you've got Ibuka, but at some point the defense is starting to age out. Your offensive line's getting injured. Like, at some point you start to get the writing on the wall and see where they're headed.
I get this one more from the team perspective than the other 2, because the other 2 are still in their prime. The running backs, like you said, the league is trending that way. Vita Vea's getting up there in age, already up there in age. I understand the perspective from the Bucs not wanting to pay him, and honestly, I would just play it out with Vita Vea and say, dude, come to camp. Now, apparently he's already gotten hurt in his 1 day showing up to camp, but I get this one from the Bucs perspective. Yeah, I agree.
He's hurt, huh?
Hurt. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That back's going to feel real good here in a week.
I thought
It'll
it was
feel
a groin
great when he
issue.
gets to California.
Yeah, I have a feeling suddenly,
That ocean breeze does it, man.
I've heard it.
whether it's the groin, the knee, something's bothering me a little bit. So this isn't technically a hold-in. You can keep paying me. I'm going to have to do some rehab.
I got a good doctor on the West Coast.
You think this is like Micah's injury?
It turns out the moment that you pay me that contract, I'm going to feel a lot better. I'll start rubbing my knee with those $100 bills. And it'll make me feel a lot
There you
better.
go.
Hey.
The one other one, this is not a hold-in, but C.J. Stroud is also up for an extension sooner rather than later.
I don't think he's got the landscape to say I'm going to hold it. Although you are the quarterback and they have no other answers, so
Would you sign him to an extension if you were the Texans?
No.
I wouldn't. But what are my other options? I've got an incredible defense that's can help me win right now. He's the only quarterback that I can actually try and win with. I think you don't have any other option.
I think you basically have to either pay him, maybe not top dollar, but up there towards that top tier, because it's like the one position where there's no real middle class, or you just go without a deal. And I would go without a deal, because I fear that this would be a contract that you look back on and go, boy, I can't believe we signed the dotted line.
I'm guessing he'd say, hey, what Trevor Lawrence got, I'm getting more.
Yeah, I'm out.
Trevor Lawrence got a 5-year deal worth $275 million. So you're talking about $55 a year. I like CJ Stroud. I think he's a really good player. I wouldn't be willing to do that just yet. I want to see what 2026 looks like. If you want to do a deal today, you want to get it done early, I'll give you the Jalen Hurts deal. 5 years, $250. We'll do that. If you want to get a deal that's more than Trevor Lawrence, so another $10 million a year, you want to be up there with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, I need to see another year of high level of production before you get that. If you want to wait, cool. We've got a club option for you next year with the rookie entry-level deal. And then we've got another one where, because you're getting paid that level, we can always just do a franchise tag for a year if we need to. And then guess what? We could do another one. So we basically have 3 more years of control on CJ Stroud at the dollar figure that you're currently asking for. Yeah, we're not going to give you that yet. It'll have to come down from that asking price in the event that you want to get a deal done a little bit early. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joins us next.
Hey, one of the things that makes Classic Air Care such a fantastic company to work with, when you are in need for something with your air conditioner, why do you keep Classic Air Care in mind? Well, they are really big in the community. They care about your neighbors. They care about this community. So do you know a hometown hero that could use a helping hand? Classic Air Care is proud to partner with Lennox for the Feel the Love program, giving deserving members of our community a brand new heating and cooling system, this at no cost. So if you know a local hero, a military veteran, a teacher, a first responder, a nurse, someone who's willing to put others first, nominate them today. Visit ClassicAirCare.com. Help us share the love with someone who truly deserves it. This is how they give back. Look, with over 9,000 five-star reviews, they've won the St. Louis Headliners Best Heating and Cooling Company 3 years straight. It's Classic Air Care. Get an appointment online at ClassicAirCare.com. Go to ClassicAirCare.com and nominate someone today for the Feel the Love program.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sportsnet update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell to the Cubs last night 10-2. Game 3 of their 4-game set against the Cubbies is tonight. 6:45 will be first pitch. Matthew Boyd on the mound for Chicago. Dustin May will get the start for St. Louis. The Sportsnet update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
That's Alex. He's T-Bone. I'm BK. Happy to go out to the Callie and Thompson hotline for our weekly conversation with the voice of the Blues. He's Chris Kerber joining us here on BK and Ferrario. Kerbs, what's good?
BK, how you doing today? I had a fun segment this morning with the Riz Show. I do a hit with them every Wednesday morning too. Mike McKenna was on, and they did a whole segment on, is this a real team or a fake team? I got pretty good.
I've heard they do a
the
segment
old minor
like
league
that.
Hockey knowledge.
Real or fake?
Well, they used to do that one dealing with a certain body part, but this one was more hockey team. So
okay. Different, huh?
It hit a different demographic.
All right, well, we're going to play real or fake right now, Curb, so we're not going to tell you what type of game we're going to play.
All right, I'm up for anything. I can fake my way through it.
All right, Curbs, we had a conversation earlier today. Sportsnet, according to Alex Ferrario, disrespected the St. Louis Blues.
Hell yeah.
They ranked the top 5 cores under the age of 25. Now, that's a bit misleading. It was 25 for under, to be fair. But their top 5 were the following teams: the Montreal Canadiens, the San Jose Sharks, the Anaheim Ducks, the Ottawa Senators, and the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, part of, I think, what made Alex so frustrated is the Blues weren't even mentioned as an honorable mention. Instead, they went with the Blackhawks, the Hurricanes, and the Wild. Curbs, for context, because I'm not sure if you have a roster in front of you right now, the following Blues players are 25 or under: Holloway, McTavish, McMichael, Neighbors, Snuggerud, Dvorsky, Broberg, Lindstein, Mayu, Jiricek, and then in net, Joel Hofer. Do you think the Blues have a top 5 core age 25 or under right now?
Oh, yeah. I absolutely do. And what's amazing about that? Okay, first off, without reading off the names, and I thank you for doing that because I don't have a roster sitting right in front of me.
I'm here for you, Chris. I should have sent this to you beforehand, but nice show right by me.
I always appreciate that. That's okay. I actually, I don't have a problem with the top 5 that you listed, right? And how they look at it and how they view it. Now, to not have the Blues, if you're doing this legitimately, to not put the Blues in the honorable mention, then you've lost all credibility to me, right?
Hell
you
yeah,
just
Curbs.
And this is what happens here is when you lose all credibility to me. I just think that, to me when I look at this, what was amazing to me about that, especially the top 5, plus even a couple you mentioned in the honorable mention, right? They did it with years, like the Blackhawks, for example, right? Years of top 3, top 5, top 6 picks, top 10 picks, right? The Blues have that grouping with only one of their own top 10 picks. Obviously, there's another one in there with Philip Broberg, okay? But yeah, I think where the Blues are, for the most part, and I think when you look at, say, a Celebrini or a Will Smith in San Jose, there's certain guys that have proven a certain level that kind of change, the rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing. But as a whole, I think that's a fantastic group that the St. Louis Blues have. And I honestly, I'll take that St. Louis Blues group over the Anaheim group right now.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. I mean, they get Leo Carlson, right? They've got Brett Seneke. I really think that, but I wouldn't, like, I guess the way to look at it, would you trade the Blues group for the whole group on any one of those other teams? And if you don't have 4 teams that you would say yes to, then the Blues in your mind would be a top 5 team.
I would on the Montreal Canadiens for sure. I would on San Jose because you could literally say trade the whole team for Macklin Celebrating, and I'd probably go ahead and say yes.
Okay.
I agree.
Fair.
Anaheim's one that I struggle with. Yeah, I don't know.
I would keep the group that I have. And Curbs, my argument for this was none of these groups that were listed on here had a goaltender at 25 or under. Now, some of them have goaltenders, but, they're older or they're more expensive, maybe too expensive, to whereas the Blues were one. I think they and Montreal were the only 2 teams that have a goalie. San Jose as well, but we all saw Oskarov last year. He was the reason they missed the playoffs. Well, they don't have a guy that's 25 that played the way that Joel Hofer has played.
Well, yeah, and in all fairness, if you're doing this exercise, you cannot look at players over the age of 25, whether it's a goalie or what. We're talking just the group of players. We're not saying trade a whole team, just a group of 25 or youngers. And you're absolutely right. I think now look, I don't think this is going to happen, or in my mind, I hope this does not happen. But we've seen goaltenders that look good for stretches, right? That's why I think teams are a little cautious to overpay or, and stop handing out maybe the $10, $12 million contracts to goaltenders, right? Because, for example, you could look at what Murray did with Pittsburgh just a few short years ago, right? I mean, here's a guy that basically wins back-to-back cups, right, with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And after that, has pretty much done nothing, right? Look at the run that Jarl Halak went on with Montreal. The Blues made the trade for him back in 2010. Had a good few seasons with the Blues. Wins the Jennings Trophy with Brian Elliott, right? And that, just the goaltender. So you got to be somewhat careful and cautious. We know Joel Hofer. We know what he can do. We know his demeanor. I love that John Wayne kind of stroll to the ice that he takes. There's a lot to like, and you hope that he does become great. I think you can project him as a future starting goaltender for Team Canada, right? But with goaltenders, you have to wait and see. And you know what backs that up real quick? Doug Armstrong, I'll never forget this comment. When Doug Armstrong made the trade for Jarl Halak, when Montreal decided after Jarl's great run, we're still going to go with Carey Price. A media member during the presser asked him a question about it. And Doug's response was, look, guys, I just traded for a goaltender. We'll find out in a few years whether it was a good move or not. So, be careful overvaluing it. But again, back to the original premise, I'm not sure. I don't have a problem with what BK said. Those 2 teams he would definitely trade for. But once you start to get murky, I think it shows you that the Blues are right in that mix.
Here's the other one that I'm surprised wasn't on that list that probably should be. How is Utah not on that list? Yeah. I mean, Dylan Guenther, Tisha Ginla.
I think it's because those guys, a couple of them at least, are not in the NHL.
Clayton Keller is, but Logan, but Logan Cooley's under 25. Dylan Guenther's under 25, who just scored 40 goals. Yeah. Simashev is a first-round pick that they've got. Like, that's the one for me that's like, man, how do you not have that team on that list versus a team like the Blues?
Alex, it's a fair question.
I don't know how you guys feel about this one, but at times, and not that it really matters. It's an article. It's an opinion. Okay. And it creates great discussion. Right. But I really do feel that, there's a lot of, and it's justified. It's okay. There's a lot of, let's wait and see what this Blues group does kind of thing. They don't know it like we do. They don't see it every day. Like, it's easy to look at analytics, and say, hey, this is where Jordan Kyrou is good, bad, whatever. Right. When you see it every day, you see more holes in the games. We've seen the inconsistencies of these young players, right, coming through. We've seen the demeanor of Joel Hofer. We saw how the Blues wanted to put Joel Hofer in unique situations, maybe playing the first game of a back-to-back rather than the second. How do you respond playing the next game after having a bad game? And he responded. We see that day to day. Those are things that analytics, that people on the outside that you're not watching, that you're not talking to them, you don't get a feel for. And that's, I think, why we are as high as we are on what the Blues are doing right now. And I kind of love the fact that they're getting overlooked a little bit here because, I think this team's got the potential to really make some big strides this year.
I think there's two other things that are playing into this. One, they lack the star, like the true Macklin Celebrini, Connor Bedard, like either former top 3 overall selection that because of the name recognition has that star power, or guy that puts up 40 goals or 100 points in a regular season. Like, I think they're lacking that from this group that we're talking about here.
Mason McTavish was drafted third overall.
And he's viewed as if we're just saying public perception, I don't think he is this. If we're saying public perception, he's a quote-unquote bust or a disappointment relative to said expectations.
He's a question mark, isn't he?
Sure.
There's a lot of number 83 jerseys.
I think to the point that you're trying to make there, BK, is, and you're right. And it goes back to what I was saying when I was saying that, some people aren't really looking at the Blues that way.
Absolutely.
Like, even going older than 25, the question mark you'll have about Robert Thomas is, do you see it for a full season, right? We've seen some bursts like we saw at the end of last year from him. Okay. Do you see it for a full season? You got Demidov that really stepped into his own. Now, he's had an extra year or so of seasoning. Like, the guy that I think it's going to be Jimmy Snuggerud's year. I really do. Can Dylan Holloway stay healthy? If he can, and you get that style of play you're on, all of a sudden, Robert Thomas is going to be that 100-point player. You're going to have a 40-goal scorer, I believe, sometime in the next not too distant future in a Jimmy Snuggerud, right? And then things are going to kind of come along. And then at that point, the perception that BK's talking about changes. You have enough question marks that haven't proven themselves consistently yet, and so I think the question marks are fair.
The other thing is they haven't played in the playoffs. Yeah. Like a lot of these guys that we talk about, they haven't proven it in the playoffs, or they haven't had that exposure.
Ottawa hasn't either.
No, for sure. But they had the exposure of being in playoff games, and I do think for a national audience, or in this case an international audience, I suppose, that plays a pretty big factor as well.
But a lot of those guys played on that Winnipeg series. Like, Snuggerud was in it.
Okay. But when you're talking about some of the younger ones, and you're right, Anaheim's up in that list because they did get into the first round of the playoffs last year. And there's always going to be recency biases when you look at this kind of thing, right? But even though they got Bedard, I don't think I'm trading that whole Blues core for the Chicago core.
Agreed.
Right? That one should, that
one's. I truly believe that one's on there because of Bedard, and because of the name recognition.
And now they got Bo Byram.
And is Kaprizov 26? Is Kaprizov 26?
He's over 25.
He's over the age of 25 on this.
Is he? Okay. I don't know that I'm trading this group for Minnesota's group.
Faber and
Boldy.
I
was going to say
right?
Boldy and Faber and Wallstead, who's another goalie like you talked about where it's questionable. But
the difference is there, right? You've got a little more seasoning in Faber and Boldy, so you have a little more certainty in terms of what you're dealing with, right? But if the St. Louis Blues found their Boldy in Lawrence, if Snuggerud they may have found their Boldy in Snuggerud, right? As a later pick, it's just where you are in that scale or in that time frame of when guys start to produce. So I like what we've got, and I'm not swapping that with Minnesota either.
Well, and that's what you said earlier today, BK. If it's more the Blues thing that I think they should be on this is the quantity over quality. Like, maybe they don't have the superstar, but they have a ton of guys and options that could get to that point versus these teams. They know what they have already.
Yeah, and I think that you've got a few guys that have the potential. Like, Broberg just might be a future number one defenseman in the NHL.
Well, Jiricek, you said, could be a guy that they're all hyping him up to be.
Right, and if, with Broberg, he's even closer to becoming this. If he becomes the guy that we've seen so far, and it's just a consistent, hey, that guy produces like a top pair defenseman, well, that's a huge value, and he's on this list. Holloway, he's got the potential of being an 80-plus point player.
Boldy and
Faber
Faber
in 30-plus goals and plays well on the defensive side and does all of the dirty work that you need from your typical role players. Like, if you're able to get that by the end of the year and Hofer takes the step forward as a legit number one goalie, I think there's a real chance that by the end of the season, if you get to another one of these lists at this time next year, Blues are top 3 on that same kind of a list.
The one aspect of the game, to me, that pretty much launches every single one of those players into their next level is, if I said, what's the one aspect of the game that probably launches every one of those players you mentioned into that next level of
goal
discussion?
scoring?
What do you think it would be? Okay. Yes. But I'll just, okay, power play.
Sure.
Power
Yeah.
play. Like if I'm looking, if you take another 15 to 20 points, right, on Robert Thomas, on Dylan Holloway, another 8 or 9 goals on Jimmy Snuggerud, right? If you're talking, number one power play minutes for Philip Broberg, right? And his point total gets to 60, which I believe is doable with a better power play. Every single one of those players in that one aspect of the game, it's going to change the numbers. It's going to change the outlook of games. It's going to change the pressure of games. It's going to make teams not want to take you penalties against you. That changes how they play. I really believe that special team aspect could almost single-handedly change the view of how so much works next year for this team.
Hey, Kerbs, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. Always enjoyed the conversations. We're getting closer and closer to the start of the preseason. I know Alex is looking forward to that.
Pumped.
We certainly are here on the show. We'll talk with you again next week, man.
All right, fellas. Have an awesome week.
You do the same. It's Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues here on 101 ESPN. Always enjoy being able to catch up with him here on BK and Ferrario. 101 ESPN is your home of the St. Louis Blues.
That was the one I didn't think of when we were talking about that. Utah should absolutely be on that list. I'd put Utah on that list over Chicago.
I think so, too.
Yeah. And I'd have St. Louis on that list over Chicago. But, yeah, Utah not being – and you're right. You're probably right. Like, a lot of their guys just haven't been at the NHL yet. But, man, Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther alone, I'd rather have that over what Chicago put on that list.
You know who else isn't on this list that I was wondering about? What about Buffalo? Benson.
Yeah, they're kind of like in Utah's situation, I guess, to where a lot of their guys just – haven't
Krebs, Jack Quinn,
They don't
Owen
have
Power,
great center depth, though,
Owen
right?
Power.
Isn't that the thing that hurts
well, a
them?
couple of the guys are guys that haven't seen the NHL yet, and they don't have the goalie either. But most of these teams don't. Yeah, I mean, Buffalo should be, but
I don't know about top 5, but in that conversation,
probably an honorable mention. Again, I would have all of those guys over what Chicago has, because other than Bedard and Byram, none of their guys have done anything at the NHL or have even played at the NHL level. That's the part where it's like what? We're just putting it on here because Connor Bedard is on that list. Yeah. And even Connor Bedard, I would have a lot of centers over because Bedard hasn't really shown it yet in that spot.
Yeah, if you're going to talk about how Dylan Holloway hasn't proven it over 82 yet, we've got to say the same thing about Bedard. Now, he's been better than Dylan Holloway.
Sure.
I'm not taking that away from him.
But also hasn't stayed healthy in the position that he plays. Like Dylan Holloway, if he was a center, we'd be having a lot more frustrations with. Connor Bedard's supposed to be a franchise center, and he has not performed like a franchise center.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Junk Drawer is next. Hey, it's BK. Imagine how hard it was for me to unlock my inner champion. Imagine the work that Victory Men's Health had to do exactly that. Well, they were able to help me. They can certainly help you. Check them out today. VictoryMen'sHealth.com is the place where you can go to find out all they have to offer. They've got a supplement shop. They've got unbelievable services, including testosterone optimization. They can help you with your weight loss goals. They can also help you with sexual health. You can do all of that at Victory Men's Health today. So sign up for that first appointment. Go online, VictoryMen'sHealth.com. When you get there, upper right-hand corner of the page, click Get Started. Put in your name, email, phone number. Tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and then tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion today. That first appointment is going to include a consultation with a licensed medical provider. They're going to do some lab work for you, find out where all of your different levels are at, and then it is time for you to put together your personalized plan with Victory Men's Health to unlock your inner champion today. It's all at Victory Men's Health and online today. Book that first appointment at VictoryMen'sHealth.com. That's VictoryMen'sHealth.com. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Before we get to Alex's junk drawer story, just real quick, Redbird Report will be posted tomorrow over on YouTube, youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. That is also where you can go to find the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast. The reason that I mentioned that is because yesterday, Alex, we had a couple people reach out to us about sponsorship opportunities. If you would like to do the same, go ahead and hit us up either on social media or email us. You can find our emails over on the 101 ESPN website. Reach out to us. We'd be happy to talk to you about all of the different options, some of the pricing options, and just overall the choices have changed, and we've got some more stuff to potentially offer you on the podcast side of things. So if you're interested in that, reach out to myself, Alex, or T-Bone. We'd be happy to discuss any of the options that now exist. Alex, what do you have for us today on the junk drawer?
Okay, guys, so my wife and I had we had an adventure last night. So the nickname for our middle daughter, Emma, is the Collector. And the reason we do this is because anything she finds in the house that she likes, she takes and goes and stuffs it in her room somewhere.
Sure, classic.
And it's the smallest thing. It's the most random thing. And she stuffs them in her bed. Like, side of her bed, stuffed animals, she'll stick it in there. So anyway, so Katie and I, we were out doing more of our patio that we've been working on. And it's like 10:30, and we're like, all right, ready for bed. Kids were asleep. So we have one of those mattresses that like adjust, right? The front's up, the back, or the legs can go up.
Congrats on being rich, man.
We bought it back in 2018, and we just paid it off 6 months ago. Financing options, ladies and gentlemen,
Great,
they help. But so we showered, we're ready to get in bed, and I guess during nap time, the girls were in bed with Katie, and they found the remote. And so the front was all the way up. And so I'm like, all right. So typically they're in our mattress somewhere. It's like in the sheets and the covers. So we're like flipping everything. We can't find it anywhere. And it's 11:30 at night, and I'm exhausted. And I'm like, I got to go to sleep. And I said, I can't sleep.
You know that's late for Alex.
Yeah.
Oh, Alex got to about 10:30, and he was like, I'm going to have
10. I was more like 9, and I'm like, this sucks. But I can't sleep. So we checked our entire house, and it kept happening. We couldn't find it. And so I finally go, let's check Emma's room. So we went in there, and not on the floor. It's not in her closet. And Katie goes, we need to check her bed. And like, she's asleep. And if you wake her up, it's like a gremlin. Game over. And so Katie's like, I guarantee it's in her bed. And I'm like, oh, God. So, like, we had to, like, Indiana Jones move the statue. It was stuffed under her stuffed animals, under her blankets that she was sleeping on. She buried it in her bed. By 12:15, we finally found it and could put the thing down. I told her, I said, by, like, 11 o'clock, I'm going to go sleep in the basement. I got to go to sleep. Finally, we found it. So now we know when anything goes missing, it's probably in our kid's bed.
Luca, he does not do that yet. We've got a couple of things. One, he's learned how to lock doors. So that's a fun one.
That's a fun one.
So we've just got to carry around
your experience.
You need to flip the doorknob so you can't lock it from the inside.
So we have the handles on all of our doors.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like if you have a screwdriver, a flathead, you can just push it and open it up. So you can do it from either side. It's not a huge deal, but it's just one of those things where, like, God bless it. So yesterday, Kara comes home. She went to the Muni last night. Oh. So I was doing the solo dad duty, and
that's miserable.
It was late. I think it ended up being
better
okay
at night.
But she gets home. I'm in the shower, and when she gets home, she texts me and says, hey, the door's locked. I thought it was just the deadbolt, which we've got the keypad that you can put in and boom, good to go. Nope, it's the actual door itself. That one you cannot use, thankfully, the flathead to open. So I had to like get out of the shower, go open the door, and get back in. Nice. I was in the middle of washing my hair. So we got that. And two, anytime he goes to bed, he will, like, in the living room, just look around, find something. Just searching the room, scanning. And he'll decide, today I need to bring in my scooter. It's coming to bed with me. Or today I'm bringing in my hockey helmet. Whatever it is, it's just like, okay, whatever, man. Like, at this point, whatever gets you to bed, I'll move it after you're done. But we've got to go, man. So, yeah, I totally get the collector thing.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. And I didn't think of it at the time. That I was like, well, yeah, she probably took it and stuffed it somewhere. But never did I think that she'd find it in her bed. And
you guys are going to have to put, like, a string on that.
Well, that's why.
Attach it with floss or something.
And so I tried to do the thing that BK has had problems with in the past, use tone towards his wife. I tried to avoid that, and I looked at her because I knew it was with her when they were at nap time. And I go, well, weren't you with them last? And she goes, yeah. And I go, well, didn't you? I said, well, why didn't you watch where she put it? And at 10:30 at night, you should have seen.
Oh, no. The truth comes out.
Katie's whip around was like, what? And I said, no, I mean, like, why didn't we watch where we put them? And then I tried to backtrack. And I said, I need to be better about making sure I put it up top than the morning.
I'm just tired.
the whip around. She's like, what did you just say? I'm like, I'm sorry, it's late. We're all tired. We need to go to bed. Oh, God.
Unbelievable. That's incredible.
I was a BK moment where I'm like, oh, so this is what Kara feels like all the time.
That is 100% correct.
Very sorry. I won't do that again. I'm wrong. You're right. I'm stupid. You're not. I'm ugly. You're good looking.
Oh, that's well done. Yeah. That's really well done.
So the collector struck again at our house.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, that is the Junk Drawer here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, so is the new target date 2028 for the Cardinals to contend again? We'll get into that next here on 101 ESPN. Pat from O'Fallon, Missouri chiming in. Guys, you sound so wimpy when it comes to your spouses. You guys need to get your man card updated.
Yeah, you need to show them who's the boss around the house.
Don't you realize you're allowed to raise your voice back and forth? That's called being married.
Okay. Good God, man.
Is that guy? There's no way that guy's married.
You need to be able to exert your dominance and yell at your wife.
I say this and I'll see it. Over under 55 years old.
Oh, at least 70.
Yeah, that felt like a very low number, so over.
Yeah, I just, I don't know. This is the way I live with my wife. You can live with yours however works for you. That's
I wanted to say something so bad.
Please don't.
I'm not going to because I know where it's going to go.
I regret saying anything.
Yeah,
I apologize.
I really wanted to say something. I'll just send it to a text to him.
So, Alex, The Athletic had an interesting piece earlier today on updated trade deadline rumors and notes, right? It sure seems like there's a whole lot of nothing out there right now.
Good.
Let's start there.
Great for the Cardinals.
It's July 29th. We've still got a little less than a week before the deadline. It feels like this is going to be one of those that, like, this weekend is really when we see any sort of legit activity start to begin. But this is what they had on the Cardinals. Despite a surprisingly competitive first half, the Cardinals are not looking to deviate from President of Baseball Operations Chaim Bloom's long-term outlook, which projects a late 2027 or early 2028 as the team's competitive window, end quote. Is that how you view it, Alex? Is that this window really begins starting in 2028?
Yeah, I think so. I guess you could make an argument for 2027, but like if I run through all of their top prospects and ETA, Liam Doyle, probably late next season. Reynel Rodriguez, late next season or probably 2028. Baez, you'd hope, is late this season or next season. Senja, Tanner Franklin, 2028. Like everything in their system, I think you're talking 2028 before you see these guys. So I think that's probably when they're hoping, like maybe at the back half of next season, they're hoping that they can be kind of like where they're at now, where you're still competitive and maybe you can make a push into September for one of those spots. But yeah, I don't think Chaim Bloom and the front office view the winning window or contending for a championship opening until 2028, because that's when all of these investments that they've put into their pipeline will realistically get to the major leagues.
Yeah, I think 2028 seems like a good start date for when I think the hope is to get back to the playoffs. I think being a World Series contender is probably like 2 more years after that. Like I think you're talking 2028. Start to hopefully win the pitching, like you ran through all those names. Hopefully your pitching pipeline is pretty strong at that point and holds strong. And that helps get you back towards more of like where they were at the beginning of the year until they've had this collapse in the last week and a half or so. And then I think by 2030 is when you're really talking about them starting to significantly push pieces in of going into the free agent waters to see, okay, where did we not develop? We can go fix that. Being more aggressive at the trade deadline and trying to buy and trying to push their chips in. I think 2028 seems like the first starting point of that. I don't think they're going to be like true contenders by 2028. I think that's still about 4 years away.
As we know, though, that stuff happens quicker and
Sure.
it lasts a shorter period of time than what you typically expect. We've seen this before where, like, boom, it all comes together and then it's gone. So it could be 28, 29, 30, who knows? But if that's the plan, if the plan is to start winning in 2028, I do think that should influence some of their decisions. Like, Lars Nootbaar, probably got to go. Right?
Agreed.
There's no real reason to keep him beyond this offseason if you're not expecting to win next year. That spot should probably be for Joshua Baez.
Yeah, and that's why I'd aggressively be looking at it at the deadline.
Andre Palante, it's a guy I'd be shopping, either now or in the offseason. Not because I don't think Andre Palante is any good. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I think he has value right now across Major League Baseball. It's not a ton, but it's value nonetheless. If you're a team that needs an innings eater, you could get Andre Palante for next year at like $7 million. And then you could get Andre Palante in 2028 for like $10 to $12 million. So you're talking basically a 2-year, $20 million deal. That is far less than the going rate for a player of his ilk that has his kind of consistency with innings on the free agent market. So there are a lot of smaller market clubs that I would imagine would be interested in a player like that. I think soon you're going to have to make a decision on Burleson and whether or not he's going to be a part of that core. Do you extend him? I think it's going to cost a decent amount of money, probably not like a 4-year, $40 million contract, for example.
He's gone. I could find somebody else.
I think you're going to have to, like, I think you're talking 5 years and 100 or something like that, which is a lot more than 4 and 40.
That is quite a bit more.
Either way, I'm going to find me a new first baseman.
Considering next year he's going to be like 6 in ARB, and the year after that 12 in ARB, I don't think he's going to accept 10 per via an extension.
I think 4x40 is great. Just give it to him now.
I think you're going to have to choose on him soon. I think Ivan Herrera, this is part of why you're hearing his name come up. If you're not going to have Masyn Winn on a contract extension, well, in 2028, he's only going to have 2 years remaining on his contract. The same thing is true for Jordan Walker at that point, Ivan Herrera at that point. Like, a lot of this stuff feels further away than it actually is. And if the end goal is for 2028 to really be the launching pad season, I think a lot of these decisions need to start today, like at this deadline, because I wonder what this offseason's even going to be. Like, are you going to get a bunch of trades? T-Bone, you brought up a great point in the office earlier today. I legitimately forgot about the CBA negotiations in 22. Legitimately forgot about it because so much has happened since then here locally. And because they were ultimately able to play the full 162, I forgot that year they had the abridged offseason where, like, starting December 1st, nothing happened for the next 2.5 months. Something very similar is likely to take place this offseason, where you basically get a month to do everything. And we looked back, there were like no trades that took place prior to December 1st, that offseason. I would assume the same thing will probably be true this year, in part because if you're a smart organization, why in the world would I trade for anything before knowing what the next system's even going to look like? I don't know what the arbitration system's going to look like in the future. I don't know what the contract negotiations are going to look like. I don't know if there's going to be a cap or if I'm even trading for a player that will play for me in 2027. So if you're one of these teams that's making a deal, now is probably the time when you would be more incentivized to do that, because at least I know with certainty I'm getting the next 2 months of 2026 and hopefully October as well this year.
And I'm getting these guys in our organization to start figuring out how all of this works itself out. It's why Lars Nootbaar, you've got the replacement for. Whether you think he's ready or not, you've got the replacement for him, at least you believe. So I'd be aggressively looking to see what you can get for that. Palante, Leahy, I would be seeing what teams are willing to offer. The bullpen, everything is wide open for you to find some type of call or find some type of player that you want. I would be looking to get all of my big tasks done now. And if it has to carry over to the offseason, then at least the conversations have started. I wouldn't be doing this of saying, no, we'll start talking about Nootbaar in the offseason. I think you need to get those conversations started so that when the offseason begins, you're ready to pull the trigger on something.
Yeah, I agree with that because, I mean, thinking back to that last lockout, I mean, as you said, when we were in the office, you can't really find big trades that happen. Now, smaller ones occurred, right? Like, I think we saw like a catcher got dealt. It's not like some smaller stuff like that. Nootbaar wouldn't probably fall into that. It's not like he's like a organization shifting kind of a trade, but that would be one that would take a while to negotiate. I mean, you're talking about an outfielder for a full year of control, so you can get him for a full 162 that could play left or right field, that gets on base, could be a leadoff hitter for a team, or
can play in center if you need him to.
It could play in center if you needed him to in a pinch. Like, that's a deal that's going to take some time to negotiate. And
also, he's having a good year.
Yeah, and that's where I wonder that they try and, to your point, accelerate some of these talks, right? Of Lars Nootbaar as one of these guys that they're going to listen on. Palante, Leahy, if they want to move on from one of those two guys in the rotation, it would make some sense. I know the front offices have been selling, at least to the national insiders, of no, it's business as usual. I don't know that I completely buy that from these front offices, because I think if they could just look back from 3 years ago, it was not business as usual. And the moment that CBA was done and negotiated, there was no real offseason. It was, all right, we were reporting to camp within about a week when that was signed.
Couple other pieces to react to. This is just from some of the national buzz today. We'll go ahead and go through these kind of quick hitter style here. Mark Feinsand, we reacted to this more long form in the open today. If you want to hear our full conversation, check out the podcast page after the show. But he said that the Cardinals appear to be one of the teams that's in good position to deal a catcher. Mentioned Pedro Pais and Ivan Herrera specifically. But beyond that, they've still got Leo Bernal. They're not trading Ray Rodriguez. It's just not happening. And then Jimmy Crooks as well. So those 5 catchers are currently at AA or higher. They've got the potential of trading 1 or 2 of them. Who do you guys think is most likely to go from that group?
Probably Pais, but I would put Crooks on there as well. I would go
Pais 1, Crooks 2. I agree.
And then I would have Herrera 3, just because I think you're going to listen to it. And I don't think you're going to get calls on Bernal from teams that want help now, nor are they listening on Rodriguez.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'd go Pais distant number 1. Number 2 for me would probably be Herrera. I don't know about Crooks, Bernal. They're not moving Rodriguez. I agree with you. I don't know that they're going to get much for Crooks in return. I don't know how teams value him across the league.
I don't either. But catchers are weird, and sometimes teams value them higher than you expect them to. From Katie Wu over at The Athletic, our friend, former colleague, She said when the Cardinals signed Dustin May and Ryan Stanek over the offseason, they expected both veterans to help keep the team afloat in the first half. They also knew that with the way that the market works for starting and relief pitching, they would be coveted at the deadline. The plan is for that to be the case for St. Louis, according to multiple team sources. She continues, the Cardinals are looking to acquire, quote, meaningful pieces, end quote, that align with their timeline of contending again in 2028. They believe that by flipping May, Stanek, or both, they could continue expediting a rebuild that is already off to a quicker start than anticipated. The Cardinals most likely will target upper-level prospects in return. I'm talking about upper levels in AAA, for example. There aren't specific positions in the farm system that they're looking to bolster. Instead, they remain focused on building a group of homegrown core players that can fully compete for the division titles by 28.
I can think of one position you should probably be
Third base.
focusing on. Yep, that's what I was. Jackson Holiday, sorry.
Hearing that, does that not give you a vibe of like they're kind of hoping to do the 23 deadline all over again, but this time get it right?
Yeah.
Because
they
like what I
added to
heard,
the lower levels in the offseason,
Yeah.
and then now you can get it with the upper levels.
Yeah, because that was kind of the focus on the 23 deadline was, okay, let's get things that are close to help us in the next year or two, 2028, as she said there. It screams to me they're looking for like, and this could be whether it be starting third baseman or just like guys that are like competent at the big league level. I mean, they're position players outside their top 4 players of Burley, Walker, Herrera, and Weatherholt. Combined for .3 WAR this season.
I would love to see them target relievers in the minor league. I know that sounds so strange, but if they could target some big-time stuff coming out of a pin from somebody else with club control, flexibility, options, that is something they really lack right now. You look down in their farm system, they've got some interesting starting options, and some of those guys will ultimately end up in the pen, kind of like Recefo is right now, for example. But I would love to see them acquire a couple of guys that can be the next Luis Gastelum, right? The guys that are now on the next conveyor belt to the major league level. They just don't have a whole lot of those. That was Matt Swanson once upon a time. They targeted him at the deadline. I think he was that 23 sell-off. Go get the next Matt Swanson, and hopefully it works out better this time. Swanson, honestly, has been fine. He had a really good season for you. Now it's terrible this year. That is what it is. It happens. But I'd like to see them maybe target one or two of those guys in some of these package deals as well. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the main piece, but somebody that you get to continue to bolster the minor league system.
I agree with that. I mean, that makes a ton of sense because they don't have, to your point, any other relievers that are really close right now. Another name, because I was thinking more of this as like an off-season move when I was thinking of it this morning was, could they trade like Fermin to go get a like major league ready reliever, right? I mean, they did that with Richie Palacios when they got like 2 good months out of him. Now they flipped him for a rental. You'd be targeting for someone else. Exactly. Like
Luke
those
Voigt,
utility
that's how
guys.
Gallegos.
Yeah, well, Voigt doesn't fall into utility, but utility guys fall into that category.
First baseman.
Okay. But I think that's kind of what they should be doing because I think you're right. They don't have much depth. I mean, look, they just signed Peter's, what's his name, Strelizik or whatever.
It's okay. We know who you're talking about.
Peter Scrabble 2.
Yeah. They got him off the scrap heap. They should be targeting guys with control that they think have big stuff.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with you. I think that would be an interesting way to go about it. You could see something similar with I don't think it's the same upside here, but if somebody really wants a right-handed bat with power, like what could you get for Nelson Velasquez? You know, could he be the kind of piece that brings back something of value in return? What if they decide, you know what, Blaze Jordan, we like you. We think you've got a future with somebody, just not here. And we'll go ahead and flip him at the trade deadline. They need a right-handed bat that can play third base, interestingly enough.
God, man, Heim is just going to exploit the Boston Red Sox.
Could you get one of their AAA bullpen arms? You know, I think there's some ways to get really creative at this year's deadline if they decide to go that route. All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. More likely to happen next. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you which one is more likely. Alex, let's start out with this. Major League Baseball trade deadline edition for more likely to happen. More likely to trade for Tarik Skubal at this year's deadline. National League teams not named the Dodgers. The Brewers, the Cubs, or the Phillies?
Ooh. I'd say it's the Brewers. Just because I don't know if the Phillies have the pieces to go get Tarik Skubal. And who was the third one?
Cubs, Phillies, and Brewers.
Cubs, I could see doing it, but I don't know if the Cubs really fixes anything. And I don't know if the Cubs would re-sign Tarik Skubal. So I don't know if the Brewers would. I'll say Brewers.
Oh, man, I'm caught between Phillies and Cubs. I don't think Milwaukee's doing it. I don't think the Phillies have the assets. I'll say Cubs. Cubs do some weird stuff when it comes to rentals, so I could see them doing that with Skubal, adding him, and they'll view him as the piece that gets them over the top.
I don't know how they make it work.
I agree with that, too.
I don't know what the trade chips are that they send in return, but the Cubs feel like the kind of team that could do something like this. You know, like they're just kind of waiting. All right, pounce. The way that their offense has performed against the Cardinals, and it's not just exclusive to what they've done against the Cardinals. I mean, they're
right. I mean, they have such little starting pitching. I mean, look at the rotation in this series, right? I mean, they have such little starting pitching. I mean, look at the rotation in this series. I wonder if they try and say, let's use the assets to get like 2 number 2s or 2 number 3s rather than a number 1. And I think that could make more sense for them.
Or just bolster the bullpen and say, we're going to bullpen this thing up.
Yeah. Yeah, like the Rangers did, and I think the Diamondbacks did that year.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go with Boyd and then a bunch of relievers.
Oof. Boyd and Peterson and a lot of relievers.
Give us the Dodgers.
More likely to happen, guys, to have a big bump in production next season. Mason McTavish or Dalibor Dvorsky?
McTavish. 100% McTavish. I think his line mates are going to be much better.
What would you categorize as a big bump?
20 to 30 points.
That's where it gets tough on McTavish. That's why I was shocked you said McTavish.
I was so quick on it, too.
I mean, because that would put him at like 80 points.
Yeah.
That seems unlikely. If we're saying 55, he was at 40 last year. Would you consider 55 a pretty big bump? He gets to 25 goals, 30 assists this year. That's a pretty big bump, right? Like, that's a really good season for a number 2 center.
15 points is probably where I would start the conversation.
All right,
if you'll accept my answer on my terms, I will say stick with McTavish.
My answer was going to be Dvorsky on this. I think Dvorsky could get to being a 50-point player. His line mates aren't going to be the greatest, although I don't know what his line mates are going to look like. I'm not sure McMichael and Buchnevich are playing with McTavish. You know, maybe they divvy it up. Maybe Neighbors is with them. And Dvorsky's got the shot. If you get guys that can start scoring goals with him, I think he could pick up the assist. And the power play is where I'd be really curious with Dvorsky. So he'd be my answer.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
BK game. How many forwards do you think last year had at least 25 goals and 55 points? Not just centers, but forwards overall in the NHL. No other qualifications. Not going by age or anything. Just 25 plus goals, 55 plus points.
Say like 45?
I would have no idea what to guess.
I feel like it's a big number.
I'll go a little less, 40.
65. But it is, I mean, that's a pretty small number. That's basically 2 per team across the NHL having this. The Blues were expecting to have at least 3 of them on the top line alone.
Yeah.
So this would mean you have at least 4 players hitting those numbers. That's pretty impressive. Now, if you're going under the age of 26, so 25 or under, only 18 of them across the NHL. I think that would be an awesome season if you're able to get that this year out of Masyn
Winn. Get 55 to 60 points out of him. That'd be huge.
So that's why I think it would qualify, because then you're putting him into the conversation. Like, the names that are on this for 25 or under, it's
Would you say that's a bigger bump, though, than Dvorsky going from what he was to getting to 45 points?
Yeah, because 45, like, it's...
I think that's a bigger bump in production, though, in terms of the individual.
I mean, Dvorsky wasn't very good last
year. I think everybody's sold that this guy's not going to be anything, and if you go to 45 points, that's a legit second or third center.
Yeah, and I don't know, because of what you said with his wingers, that's why I would be hesitant on Dvorsky doing it, and I didn't really see him as much of a playmaker last year. I agree with the shot. I think the shot could potentially.
I think he gets the puck to the net. You got to get guys who can put the puck in the net for him.
That's why I would agree with BK. I would have gone with McTavish as well. Guys, more likely to happen. We see the Cardinals trade a controllable starter or a controllable position player not named Nootbaar.
Controllable starter. Although Crooks would be considered controllable.
Yeah, and so would Pajes.
Yeah.
I'll go position player because of the catchers.
Yeah.
I think I agree.
I think they're going to trade a catcher.
I jumped to conclusions too quick there. I prematurely
I
answered.
knew I had to put the Nootbaar
Never.
caveat in there because I knew everybody was going to answer Nootbaar. I think I agree with you guys, though, because I've said this before. I don't know that we see a lot of controllable arms like Palante and Leahy get moved as sell-off moves. If they are moved, it's more of like what we were talking during the commercial break, where you're buying something. Like if the Dodgers were to trade Wroblewski to go get Skubal.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. You give us two scenarios, we'll tell you which one's more likely. More likely from the 314. The Cardinals trade Blaze Jordan back to Boston, or the Cardinals trade for Michael Wacha? I think it's more likely Jordan goes back to Boston. I don't think Wacha's getting dealt, man.
Yeah, I think they're keeping.
It's silly, but whatever.
Yeah, I think they're keeping him.
Yeah, I would say Blaze goes back to Boston. I don't know what that would look like, but I don't get the sense the Cardinals are going to buy anything at the deadline. I think they're just making sellers moves.
More likely to play in St. Louis in 2028, Jordan Binnington or Ivan Herrera?
Herrera.
Agreed.
I think I think this will be the last year of Binnington.
Yeah, I don't see a scenario where Binnington's back, so I would agree with that.
More likely Masyn Winn gets traded or extended?
Oh.
Traded.
That one is tough. I don't.
Well, we know bosses like it when you call them out through the media. So
Always works.
I'll say extended because I don't know who the replacement is.
They just
I don't
drafted
see
him, man.
somebody. I know, but he's like
Rocco.
4 years away.
Yeah, unless he goes through the system quick.
I
They
also
got a
wonder how they-
17
They
and
got
like,
a phenom.
Even if he flies through the system, it might be 22 before he gets here. It's like
Jackson
5
Holiday.
years, man. So yeah, I'll say extended.
I'll say traded. I don't think they're going to extend Masyn Winn, even though it wouldn't be expensive, right? I think
I agree.
what's his name in Sacramento, Jacob Wilson. I think that's kind of the deal you'd be looking at. I don't think they're going to do that, though, and they could just put Weatherhold at short for a little bit until that Rocco is ready to come up here, whenever that might be.
340 for Masyn Winn? Did you do it?
That's actually more reasonable.
True.
But no.
No, I find another
I think his
shortstop.
wins above replacement numbers are going to bump his number up more than you're kind of expecting, T-Bone, but it's not
I
going to
agree.
be crazy. It's not going to be what you're talking about. Like, I don't think he could even get at this point what J.J. Weatherhold just signed for. I don't think that's even in his range of outcomes.
I agree.
And that's a totally reasonable deal, in my estimation. From the Ivan Herrera worshiper, more likely Jimmy Snuggerud scores 40 goals this year, or Holloway gets to 80-plus points.
Holloway, 80-plus points.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that. 40 goals will be tough. You would need the power play to really get going, like Kerbs had said.
More likely to happen, AI officials or more video review?
Ooh.
What's cheaper?
AI officials.
So then that would be my answer.
I think it's going to be really hard because there are unions that you negotiate with to go full AI officials. I think a lot of it will be similar to what we have in Major League Baseball, where you're able to use artificial intelligence to supplement the officiating. So like in the NFL, instead of us bringing out a chain gang, I cannot believe we still do that in 2026.
Hey, I like the chain game.
I think you will
special
exclusively
about
have like a Hawkeye type of a system, what you see in Major League Baseball, where you always know where the ball is at on any given play.
I like the chain
and you know
gang.
how far away it is from the first down marker. So
I
I think it's more video review, and it'll be like VAR in soccer.
I like physical
We're gonna see
proof
that.
rather than video. AI could adjust it. Chain gang tells me where that damn ball is.
That's true.
I know if there's one league that
You're
would
gonna
do it, it would
Steratore
be
bring out the
the cue card or whatever it was.
Yeah.
If there's one league that would do it, it would be baseball. The reason I say that, pace of play. I could see and now. I think there would still be people on the field, but I don't think they'd be calling the game.
The
I
problem
think
right now is
robot umps.
apparently it takes longer than what the umpires are.
But I think at some point you could get to where technology's fast enough to where, like, instead of the umpire making the call, like balls or strikes, like the system they had in the Myers where it tells them it's a ball or strike, or even at first base, right? Sensors in the base and the ball, like, boom, the buzz is safer out, and then he knows and makes the call.
Alongside T-Bone and Alex, I'm BK. Coming up next, the Cardinals have become what the A's just did. We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Classic Air Care Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electricity, a company that is having been making people comfortable since 1926, but most importantly, always looking out for you. And they do so by making sure they're maintaining your HVAC system. But at this time of the year, it's something I love that they do every year. It's called Feel the Love Program. If you know a hometown hero or somebody that could use a helping hand, Classic Air Care is partnering with Lennox for the Feel the Love Program, where you're giving a deserving member of our community a brand new heating or cooling system at no cost. So if you know a local hero, a military vet, a teacher, a first responder, or someone who's always putting others first, you can nominate them today to get that free heating and cooling system at no cost. Just go to their website, classicaircare.com, and help share the love with someone who truly deserves it. So check out that Feel the Love program. Also check out opportunities for you to take care of your HVAC system. That's Classic Air Care, caring for our community since 1926, classicaircare.com.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sportsnet update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell to the Cubs yesterday 10-2. Game 3 of the 4-game set is tonight, 6:45 first pitch. Dustin May on the mound for St. Louis. Matthew Boyd will get the start for Chicago. The Sportsnet update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Remember the topic we had a couple of weeks ago, Alex? It was right around the All-Star break. Foul Territory was talking about the Sacramento Athletics. And they said what a disaster their season has become. We talked about the A's whenever the Cardinals were playing against them. We were like, damn, look at that core. Their position players look kind of similar to what the Cardinals are hoping to build right now. Now, they don't have any pitching, but their core looks pretty damn good. And then they go through quite the dry spell. There was a point in time where they were 38-38, Alex. They were at 500, and they were in first place in the American League West, which speaks to the AL West.
Hey.
Not bad.
You know, 38-38. Do you know what their record is today?
It's
I think
bad.
they're like 10 below 500, aren't they?
They are 45-62.
Oh, wow.
They have gone 7-24 in their last 31 games. It has not only gone poorly, it's been an absolute collapse for the Athletics since that reasonably impressive start. And I asked you at the time, do you have any fear of the Cardinals doing what has happened to the Athletics? And I think all of us said at the time, no, we don't really have that fear because every time that they've been punched in the mouth, they have responded. Is your answer now different to that question?
Yeah, considering it's kind of happening.
It has not happened to the degree that it did to the Athletics yet.
It's getting there.
But for the first time this year, you're under 500.
Lost to the Diamondbacks, lost to the Angels, lost to the Cubs. Like it's getting there, and the trade deadline is a few days away. And we already heard Masyn Winn's comments, like how much does this roster feel disengaged when Dustin May gets traded, or potentially Lars Nootbaar gets traded, or Andre Palante gets traded, or like 4 of your bullpen arms get traded, and Quinn Matthews is brought up, and Josh Baez, and the learning struggles happen. That's the part that, yeah, you can fall into that, because why I said no at the time was they stopped the snowball. They continued to see a snowball coming at them, and they were able to squash it and turn it back into snow. Now this thing is swallowing them up. And I'd be very concerned at what happens over the next 5 to 7 days, what it looks like the rest of the season. Now, maybe when the dust settles, they settle, and guys can kind of get back to where they're at because the noise is gone. But a lot of the noise and the guys that are struggling, it's not compared to them. It's people on the roster. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's happening, and I think it might get worse from here.
Yeah, I think it's happening. Now, I don't know about the A's offense, how it has looked over that stretch, because, like, that's the one thing that's been surprising to me is the lack of any offense from the Cardinals. If you would have told me their pitching caved in on itself like it does for the Athletics every single year around, like, July, I would have said, okay, that kind of makes sense, right? I mean, we could look at it. It was very fragile, their pitching staff as a whole this season, and they lost one guy, and you're really feeling the effects of it when JoJo went down to injury. The offense is the part for me that this is a little bit of air being let out of the balloon of, whoa, I didn't see this coming, right? I knew the bottom part of the order was bad. Now you're getting to a point where nobody in the lineup is hitting, and they're not doing any damage. They've got the worst slugging percentage, I think, in the month of July. Like, it's abysmal, and it's one of the, like, worst 20-game stretches in franchise history. So that's the part that is more discouraging for me. The pitching side of it, yeah, I kind of could have seen this coming.
How about this? Since June 20th, which is basically when the Athletics have cratered, Athletics offense is batting .230, slugging percentage of .350. The Cardinals offense is batting .220, slugging percentage of .340.
So you read off the Athletics, and I'm like, that sounds like what the Cardinals did.
They have 27 home runs in this stretch. You have 29 home runs. I mean, it's remarkably similar in terms of what the offenses have done. Now, you play in a pitcher's park. They play in a hitter-friendly park, so they are underperforming, I would say, even more than the Cardinals have based upon where they play. But yeah, it's pretty similar. What's really happened to them, though, is their pitching has just completely cratered. They have a 6.5 ERA from their entire staff over this stretch. And that goes back to what I was talking about with their ballpark. When you play where they do, you're more prone to those kinds of blow-ups with your pitching staff, which means you're going to put that much more pressure on your offense. And when their offense is performing, as the Cardinals' offense has been, well, you're done. It's game over. The Cardinals are a little more immune to that with their pitching. I didn't feel that way over the last 48 hours.
I don't believe that statement you just said.
But because of where they play, they're less likely to give up the 15 to 20 run outbursts, which has happened multiple times against the Athletics over the last few weeks.
Or maybe Ollie's just pulling those pitchers out of the game before it gets to that point.
They lost a game 15 to 14. They lost a game 12 to 11. They lost a game recently. The Athletics did. God, which one was this? 15 to 5.
Did they lose a game?
Another one, 11 to 8.
20 runs.
And 23 to 4. Yeah. All of those three that I just mentioned have come in the second half, which means over the last 10 days.
But you're forgetting Jared Schuster's going to be back after the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And that boy's going to come up and throw He gets JoJo Romero's spot.
I don't think you're going to do this.
It'd be hard to do that.
I don't think you're going
Especially
to
at this
be as
ballpark.
bad as the Athletics have
fair.
been.
Giving up 10 is like giving up 24 in Sacramento.
That's true.
That's a good point.
If the Cardinals had a similar kind of a stretch where they go 7-24 in their next 31 games, they would at that point be 60-78 overall through 138 games. So you'd have like a month left in the regular season. How do you think Cardinals fans would react if that's ultimately where they land?
I think they'd kind of just be where they're at right now. Probably some would be excited that you're going to get a top pick. Another, top 5 pick if the lottery or top 10 pick if the lottery goes in your direction. I think what T-Bone said earlier in the show is true. I think a lot of Cardinals fans just might be checked out. And I don't think anything really changes if they go into that. Maybe more concern about Walker and Weatherholt, more so Walker than Weatherholt from what they saw early on, and if it regresses back to that on the offense. But on the pitching side, I don't think people are going to get upset because they're waiting on these guys that are in the minor leagues.
If things were to stand as they are currently, that winning percentage at 60-78 would put you at roughly 5th or 6th. In the
I think people would be
Major League Baseball
excited about
draft.
that.
Yeah, I think people would be excited about it, long as you're still getting those positive answers on Walker, Burley. If you want to put if Herrera's here, Herrera in that
Hard to
conversation.
imagine that would be the case if you go through that kind of a dry spell.
I would think so too. But like if they sell off a decent amount of their bullpen and their pitching, I mean, they could have an Athletics-esque run with their pitching staff. But I agree with you. I think it probably is unlikely. But I think as long as you get like some still positive results from guys of the core, I don't think Cardinals fans will care. I mean, I haven't gotten the sense that they've cared much about this team anyways.
I think the core specifically is Walker and Weatherholt. Maybe Herrera.
That's fair. I mean, I think that's totally
and
fair.
Baez coming up. Like I don't think.
McGreevy.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there's not some kind of a huge regression coming his way where he has like a 6 ERA in the second half or something.
But yeah, like I don't think I think that core is a very small list of players that people are honed in on rather than what it's been in the past, to where it was Winn and Gorman and Walker and Nootbaar and all these pieces. Now I think that list is getting shorter for people.
Somebody on the text line said, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't the Cardinals ineligible to win the lottery for next year's draft? I don't believe so.
We did this last year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
not
this
this
year
game
their
again.
clock has reset, so I think they're good. The teams that are ineligible according to Tankathon are Pittsburgh. They can't pick better than 10th. And San Francisco, who also can't pick above 10th this season. So those are the 2 teams that are potentially kind of screwed. That's really rough for San Francisco because they would otherwise have the 4th overall selection right now.
Good for the Cardinals to get that one then.
All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We'll hit the rewind next. If you guys missed anything from today's show, check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
That 101 ESPN app is free to download. Super easy to use. It's sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. You can also check out the full show on video at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. That's where you can see the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast. The Redbird Report will have a new one of those coming out for you guys tomorrow afternoon. And if you would like to become a new sponsor of either the Last Minute Blues podcast or the Redbird Report, feel free to reach out to Alex T-Bone or myself. We'd be happy to talk to you about all of the different options. Somebody did exactly that yesterday. We're going to talk to him hopefully later on today. All right, to finish out the show, Alex, I want to talk about what's going to take place tonight because I think there's a pretty good chance that this is Dustin May's final start in a Cardinals uniform. How would you describe the Dustin May experience this year and what it has meant for the Cardinals?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's meant a whole lot because it didn't help them get to a playoff spot, which I think people were hoping when they saw it early on. But I would still call it successful because you didn't have to rush any of your minor league guys to the major leagues. Like, he provided you the innings that you needed. They were competitive. He helped you win baseball games early on. And frankly, it looked like a steal of a signing when you did it, to the point that you either are going to re-sign him or get a hell of a return back in return for a trade. It's fallen off a bit. So I don't know if it's like a great job done by the Cardinals, but I think it did what it needed to do in keeping Quinn Matthews down as long as it has, avoiding rushing certain guys up to the major leagues. So now you can slow play them and get them reps now.
Yeah, I think that was perfectly described because I don't think it was like a great signing because you're not going to trade him for anything of super meaning. But it did what it needed to, right? I mean, it was a fine signing. You saw spurts where you thought, man, this could really turn around for Dustin May. And then he went back into a little bit of a cold stretch here of late where he hasn't been as effective, and it's kind of probably settled in his value to being probably like a lottery ticket-esque prospect kind of for what you're going to get from him in return. But it did the job, right? I mean, what he said of it, he stayed healthy, he pitched, he covered innings for you. It kept Quinn Matthews. It kept Bryce Amont, who's also still down there, down at AAA. Like, it did the job it was necessary. It was the perfect Band-Aid signing.
I thought it was a great signing. And there's two reasons why. One, I think you guys are underestimating how good he's been. Since his second start of the season, so you eliminate the first two, they were dreadful. But since then, 3.7 ERA, 2.9 fielding independent ERA. He's averaged a strikeout per inning for the Cardinals, and he's gone 96 innings in his last 18 starts. He's getting deep into games. He's covering innings for you. He's been super effective. I think they might be able to get more for Dustin May than what some are expecting. The reason being, they've got to beat a second-round pick. And if you're going to get more than a second-round pick in return for Dustin May, guys, that's a good prospect, a legitimately good prospect. Probably not top 100, but maybe like the fringe of that, or a package that includes multiple guys with the potential to get to the major league level. That's pretty damn impressive. More importantly, though, than his quality, I believe is what it represents for the Cardinals. This is proof of concept. They can now go to the market this offseason or next year or beyond and say to a starter that's trying to rehabilitate their image, look what we did for Dustin May. We can do that for you. We'll make sure that you're staying healthy. We helped him maintain his health throughout the course of the season by pushing him back, making sure we insert that sixth starter, honoring the off day. And also, hey, if you're not feeling good on any given day, we'll pull you early. We'll do what's necessary to make you pull to pull, right? They did this with Sonny Gray. He's had issues staying healthy elsewhere. Didn't have issues that same way here. Dustin May now can point to the same thing. And if you're a pitcher that needs to activate yourself in terms of your stuff, I think the Cardinals have now shown an ability as well to do some of that, where they can tweak your arsenal and get the best out of you. They've done some of that with Dustin May this season. So I think it has served every purpose that they were looking for, and it serves as an opportunity of proof of concept for the St. Louis Cardinals for whatever that next guy is that's coming in as a project for them to sell this on.
He's so getting rocked tonight.
You've BKO'd everybody
such a
BKO
week. Yeah, if I've heard it.
And also, what a spin rate on that one for you.
I disagree. I think it was
I get what he was. I get where he was coming from. The signing, if it's going to be a great signing, will be defined by what they get in return.
Yeah, I was going to say the proof of concept is there.
Nothing he did on the field, which is a weird thing to say.
What he did early on, I don't think matters to teams. It's what he's done going into the trade deadline. And if you struggle,
he's been okay. He's been okay.
But
He's had a couple of blow-ups, but
it's not what it was early on.
I would say he's had like 2 or 3 bad games. Other than that, though, he's been really good. He had a couple of bad ones where it was like injury related. He came out because a ball bounced off.
That's a little concerning.
Well, it's because like freak accidents. A ball bounces off of his ankle. What are you going to do?
Get out of the way, man.
Matthew Boyd on the mound tonight as a lefty. He's quite good.
No-hitter.
Going up against the St. Louis Cardinals.
too.
They've got Dustin May on the mound. How you guys feeling in this one?
Not great. 8-1.
We'll break it down for you guys tomorrow. Fast Lane's next here on 101 ESPN.